Good evening. Welcome to your Ass Hurts News Network, coming to you live from the tip top of Cock Tower Square with your host, Sergeant Friday. Sarge, how you doing?
Evening, Cletus.
Evening, Sergeant.
I'm doing fucking awesome, bro. I'm all wound up like a fucking spring over here.
I can
Just
tell.
been sitting, biding my time, reading these documents, and listening to some of these different streamers, and just trying to soak it up and trying to make sense of everything that I've heard. And to me, it's more than likely that Dylan Mortensen has involvement in this crime, direct and or indirect, pre-knowledge or recognized who was in that home that night, as far as I can tell. Everything that we've read so far contradicts PCA. There isn't a single thing in the PCA that's true. Yet they arrested a man for quadruple homicide and burglary on a document that couldn't be verified under any condition. I don't care if you brought Stalin back to life. He couldn't beat it out of you to match what's in that PCA. And I get a kick out of how everybody treats probable cause as just this whimsical fucking thing that just doesn't matter. And that's how degraded the American public has come when it comes to knowing what fucking country they live in. They're as clueless as the fucking the wind-driven snow. No fucking clue at all. They land wherever they're told to land. Probable cause is the key issue in any criminal proceeding. And if they bring lies to the court to sign on warrants, okay? And now they're putting out their own evidence that they said they relied on, which contradicts everything they said in the PCA. Cletus?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that they've got an unwinnable fucking case. I'm not at the point of saying that it's more likely than not that Dylan had direct or indirect knowledge. I can definitely go down that rabbit hole, but I don't know that there's anything that definitively supports that.
Oh, there's a bunch of things that support that. There's a bunch of things that support that. Her whole description of an individual is the most fucked up, out of this world description that you couldn't find that person under any conditions. Fair enough?
Yeah.
What's the first thing somebody that's in a jackpot does? I think they lie, Cletus. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when she gives a description of the perp, and in nowhere does she ever give height. And nowhere does she actually, it says she saw an eyebrow, singular. Did this person have a fucking unibrow? Literally. Here's a woman that draws pictures of eyes and eyebrows. And she was asked by a policeman if she noticed his eyebrows. Why did the policeman ask her that question? That's how that got brought into this whole story. Dylan didn't say, I saw a guy with bushy eyebrows. No. I think it was on her second or third interview. Did you see his eyes? No. Did you see his eyebrows? And then later, and only after that interview, did she start including the bushy eyebrow. I mean, come on. It's completely fabricated. The police led her to conclusions that aren't there because
and that I don't disagree with, but I don't know how you immediately jump to she more likely than not has direct or indirect knowledge of.
Because in her conversation with Bethany clinched it for me. Her conversation with Bethany confirms to me that she knew 100% these people were being slaughtered around her.
I don't disagree with that at all. I don't disagree with that one bit.
Additionally, her messages start only after the perp or perpetrators left the property. Only then did she start to communicate with Bethany.
Right. I do.
Only then did she try to. Yeah. So she knew what was going on in that house. Now, I argue that her involvement would have been letting them in or knew it was coming. She invited this girl to come up to be her number one. She wasn't supposed to be there. Who knew she was there? The Gonzalez girl with the Range Rover. That was an invite by Dylan to be your number one.
Right.
So Dylan is all over this fucking place. Everywhere there's Dylan. But Dylan, because she's a girl with blonde hair, and I learned this from Clue, they're as vicious and vile as a man.
Mm-hmm. I don't disagree with that either.
Okay. So you continue on. Look what happens. The 8-hour delay. Why is it Bethany didn't try to contact the police after she heard from Dylan that there was a man in black with a mask. Bethany offers up that Zana was wearing black. No, he had on it like a ski mask.
Well, and I think that's the big thing for me in the text messages that I'm trying to process without jumping to conclusions with it is Bethany says, unprovoked, Zana was wearing all black. And I've been trying to figure out how that makes sense to me, because that would either imply one of a few things, right? Either there are text messages that are not in there, or Bethany and Dylan had some other interaction along with those text messages, or Bethany saw somebody walk outside the house that was in all black that she assumed.
No. She knew from previously in the evening that Zana was in all black.
Then I don't understand what context or why that was.
Because I think Dylan, we can pull him up and look, but I think Dylan mentioned somebody in black, and then she says Zana wasn't wearing all black.
No, she doesn't. No, Dylan does not mention anybody in black. She Bethany mentions Zana was wearing all black. And that's the part that's got me fucking.
Okay, so maybe there were people running around. But let me just now say this, connect Zana. I'll connect Zana to this crime like I did in the very beginning, 2.5 years ago, to many people that don't remember. After that PCA was released, I said it appeared to me that Zana stumbled upon the fucking crime. And she became a victim as well as Ethan as a result of being confronted or confronting whoever may have been involved in that crime. And that's why she fought. And I think she fought her way all the way back into that bedroom and lost, obviously, as well as Ethan. So when Dylan says that she heard Kaylee run down the stairs, up the stairs, down the stairs, I think she's describing the movements of Zana, not the movements of Kaylee. She's not describing the movements of the girls that were upstairs. I think what happened is Zana went up them stairs when all that noise was happening, and then turned and fled back down the fucking stairs.
So wait a minute. Hold on.
And what she heard going up the stairs, what she heard on the staircase, she's calling someone coming down. It most likely was the perpetrator going up the stairs. Somebody went up, somebody came down. She's claiming someone came down, someone went up, and someone came down again. And I'm saying that description is most likely accurate in the entirety of the crime. Somebody went up the stairs, killer. Zana went up the stairs. Came down the stairs.
Where is this documented that now that she has said she heard somebody go up the stairs and down the stairs?
It was in one of the filings here by and it was in court where is it Taylor, right? The lawyer?
Yeah.
Said that it's just not possible that we know where the victim was in the end, and the victim couldn't have gone down, up, and down again, because that would have left her in the kitchen. And pointed that right out to a person on the stand. How do you close that? So we know that statement can't be reliable. It was her argument. Dylan's statement can't be reliable.
Well, no, it can't be reliable because it also goes against what's in the PCA. Because she was woken up 3 times. How the fuck did she hear people walking up and down the steps if she was asleep? Because every time she heard something, she woke up and opened the door. So how the fuck did she hear anybody go up and down the steps if she was asleep? Either she's lying or they lied in the PCA.
And I'm going to say that Miss DM has made many misstatements and convenient statements to cover up what she knows. There's no way the woman, in my opinion, this is my personal opinion based on the information been given to us, that this woman was blind about what was going on. Why weren't the texts coming earlier? Why did they start only at, what did it start at 4:24 a.m. to Bethany?
4:22 something, I think.
Okay, 4:22 and 47 or something. Okay, so at that point, the crime was complete. So let's stick with the 4 to 4:20 timeline. We can see that there may be some merit to the police surmising that. At that point, but all of her interactions make no sense for an innocent bystander. All of her descriptions make 0 sense. He was about my height, maybe a little taller. Not muscular or not skinny, but maybe athletic build. That describes herself. I saw an eyebrow, which was something fed to her by the police and fed to her for her whatever. Maybe she has an eye fetish. I don't know. But her room is covered in pictures of eyebrows and eyes. Right? So when the cop gave that to her, that then became part of her story. Then she's talking about it maybe being a fireman.
Yeah, I mean, she was fucked up. Like, that's just all there is to it. She was drunk out of her mind, or she was high, or she's got too many issues to be credible, period. But
I don't believe that at all. That's what a guilty person would say. They'd give you every reason in the book while they had nothing to do with it and don't know nothing. Just think about it from that point of view, all the things that this woman has said and all she claims.
And I don't disagree with you, right? But I'm trying to dissect the things that she did say. And one of the things I heard just a little while ago was Ashley Jennings talking about the how Dylan determined her height, and said that she said that the person was taller than she was, and she's around 5'8". Well, okay, so, and I was thinking about what you were talking about the, you know, if the person is in the living room coming toward her, and that's when she perceived them to be taller than her, then that's 6 inches difference. So if 5'10", and she's saying she's at least taller than her, that person could have been 5'4". And how tall was? But my point is, how tall was Xana? Because with Bethany describing Xana wearing all black,
Same thing. She's about 5'4", 5'5".
So
there's pictures of her out there. I don't think Xana was a very tall girl. Most women are around 5'6" consistently anyway.
So my point is, it almost makes me wonder if Bethany texting her saying Xana was wearing all black is how she came up with her description. Because she described somebody that's all in all black, somebody that's taller than her, which actually would have been Xana if she's walking through the living room. Like I mean, I don't think she saw anybody. I really don't. I do not think she saw a fucking person.
I honestly think she did see people, but I don't think that she was surprised to see people. I think her getting up 3 times shows that she was expecting something. There's no mention anywhere of that 3 trips, the 3 opening and go. Based on what they've given us now for her statement, there's nothing in any of the legal documents that they claim to be her statements that even mentions opening the door 3 times. It's only in the PCA. There's things in the PCA that so far there isn't a single bit of evidence to support it. Any of her statements, there's some similarities, but even when you look at the eyebrow, and it went from eyebrows to eyebrow by her. So she saw a singular eyebrow. I'm stunned. But that idea was given to her by the cop after those cops had searched that house. The cop had seen the same thing she saw. I think that cop was asking her that question to see what he could get out of her. Do you follow me? Like, because not everybody had the idea that these girls are completely innocent. But in the way that they interviewed them and the time between interviews shows me that they were never truly treated as a suspect. She was brought downtown and she was questioned by Officer Kathleen and searched. Where's that? There's no evidence. There's even a hint of that. They interviewed her that day and then they didn't interview her for 4 days later. Right? So they weren't even treated as suspects.
One of the most suspicious things that I've seen with this tonight, because this is just dipping our toes back into it, is the fact that they presented her a picture of him on December 30th after they arrested him and asked her then if that's the guy. That's one of the most fucked up things I think I can possibly fucking think of for them to do.
Well, it's not as fucked up as you think.
Well, I mean, but here's my thing, right? This is
you're missing part of it. Cletus, you're missing part of it. You're missing what Dylan told us. That when she got the name, when she heard the name, she instantly went on the internet to find pictures of Brian Kohlberger. And she got pictures online of Brian Kohlberger, and she couldn't identify him as the man she saw. So when they went there and showed him a picture, that's what she shared with them. That I looked this up online when I got the name. When it was broadcast on the media.
But
so she took it upon herself to look at Kohlberger and couldn't identify him as who she saw.
But what I'm saying, on December 30th, this is in the motion, one of the defense's motions. On December 30th, the law enforcement presented her a picture of the person they had just arrested and said, is this the guy? And she said she couldn't remember. My ultimate fucking issue is, why did you present it to her at all? You should have already fucking known her position on it
before you went and arrested the guy. Absolutely.
Right. Exactly.
No, you're right. I'm sorry. I see your point. They didn't investigate Kohlberger. That's the point. They just didn't. You know, the other thing that's offensive to me is that Othram Labs were able to pull identifications from that apparent buccal swab of the button snap. And in their investigation, they came to what they call a low count, which I don't buy for any reason whatsoever. But they found that the DNA did connect to a person that was a group of 4 brothers. And the state police in the lab attempted to contact one of the brothers to get him to donate a sample, and he basically told him to fuck off. That's in the documents that we now know about that. So for all of these people running around the DNA, look, the DNA's original fucking Othram work identified potential 4 male suspects, all brothers. And that's insane. That then they even admit, Cletus, that based on their work, they weren't heading towards a Kohlberger. They wouldn't have got to Kohlberger. They admit that. And here's the bombshell. This is why Ann keeps asking about HIPAA, ladies and gentlemen. The reason the sample at the FBI was almost 3 times bigger than the sample that Othram used is because the FBI used all of the fucking available data, including all of the medical information that could be obtained from that sample. That's how they went and sought Brian Kohlberger, with the medical aspects combined with what little DNA that they had for an identity of an individual. That's why Ann keeps going back and forth, HIPAA, that these DNA samples offer you all kinds of personal, private, protected, you must have a warrant to get. This is her argument, and it now makes sense, and I understood that today by reading these documents and finally hearing that Othram did get a hit. And they were 4 brothers, which unfortunately, Steve Gonzalez is one of 4 brothers for the audience. That's the information that was shared with me. I didn't verify it. So pardon me if I'm wrong, Mr. Gonzalez, but I'm to understand from what people have told me that are good streamers out here that you're one of 4 brothers. Not to say that he has anything involved, but it goes back to what I said in the beginning. Was that knife part of the fucking crime scene and was not brought into the property?
Right. Yeah.
Right? It was stuck under the blankets is what we're being told now. Not this nonsense under her thigh, under the blankets it was. How did it get there? So in the middle of a mass fucking stabbing, what are you doing with the sheath? You're tucking it under. Excuse me, ladies. Let me put this here. How does it get under the fucking blankets, bro? If it wasn't something that was not already in that room, my supposition is that knife was drawn by Bethany, or not Bethany, but by one of the girls in the upstairs room, and it got taken away from them. That's how I see this crime starting out. And then I see whoever went crazy with the knife ran into Zana. And that's what caused the front 2 people to be then taken down. That's how I see it. I don't see an outsider getting into that home carrying a knife that's in a sheath, not attached to his belt, but in the sheath, and walk into the house with a sheathed weapon. That's just stupid. You can't make that make sense. And I'm an ex-criminal, and I just can't imagine that if I'm going to go to a home to knife you to death, that I would even bring a sheath.
Well, and I will. One of the debates we were having a while ago was about no DNA in the car. And I can, even though it's completely improbable, highly fucking unlikely, I won't say it's impossible, but when you can take that impossibility or improbability being true, but something stupid like leaving the sheet behind being true also, then those 2 don't fucking work together for me.
How about all the gaslighting?
Huh?
How about all the gaslighting? There was blood on Kohlberger's pillow.
Yeah.
How about all the gaslighting these motherfuckers did? There was IDs. Oh, the girl's IDs were at his house in Pennsylvania. No, that didn't come out to be true at all, now did it? Right. All the gaslighting the prosecution fed to the media. And all of these twits out here that want to determine innocent or guilt, because I'm of the mind that I don't know if he's innocent or guilty. And I don't care how bad the case is. And even if he gets the case and he gets a not guilty verdict, that still does not answer the question for me as to whether he was involved or not, because you just can't know. It's an unknowable thing.
Right. That's what I was going to say. I don't know if he did it or not, but what I do know is you can't prove he did it by the case the state's bringing against him. You just can't. You cannot fucking prove he did it. You can you're more likely to prove he didn't fucking do it than he did do it.
Of the trillion ways to show this guy didn't do it, you came up with the fucking most ignorant way of all. Pictures that don't picture, right?
Yeah.
It's like Bigfoot pictures. Look, there's Brian's car. Yeah, okay, that's Bigfoot in the background too, you dumb fuck. What's going on with that, Cleus? You also had some phone information you wanted to share. Yeah,
I do want to go through that and make sure that I'm not talking out of my ass before I say it, but I think that the motion in limine about the AT&T records, they're talking about the clock for those, and basically what it is the timing reference, right? Which is how they would be able to determine where he's at with his phone record. And what they're saying is that they didn't implement that feature until May of 2023 or something like that, which would have been well after.
It would be 23. It'd been way after. It'd been the following.
Right.
Yep.
So my problem is, and then they go on to say that they're going to supplement that. Because of that, they're going to supplement that with information from the FBI. Well, I don't give a fuck what the FBI says. If the data's not there, fuck their interpretation of it. The data doesn't exist. So whatever they say, they're making up. Because without that reference, you have no fucking idea of his exact location. You can say he drove this road and went this direction and was at this point and at this point and at that point, but you cannot fucking tell it because we've already shown that there's absolutely no way they triangulated his position on that fucking path. And if you don't even have a timing reference to go along with where the single tower that was covering his area, you do not know where the fuck he was at.
No. And look, how about in the beginning where Ann pointed out that there were two cars that left that apartment complex, both of them white 4-door sedans. One of them headed towards Moscow at 4:42 a.m. The other one at 4:44 a.m. went south. And the police refer to suspect vehicle 1 leaving at 4:42 a.m., meaning they're pointing to the car that went towards Moscow, right? But in fact, Kohberger openly admits that his car was the one that went at 4:44 and went south. And now if you start tracking these two, if you were to concentrate on the car's signals now, the phone, according to Ann, travels with his car. In other words, when you do the phone shit and see it leave the complex, you see the phone heading south, not west or east or whatever way the other it was to get to Moscow. So the phone shows that Brian Kohberger did not leave his apartment at 2:42 a.m. He didn't leave the complex until 2:44, and he went south towards Huawei Park.
Well, let me tell you how ridiculous what they've presented is. So the state presented that the first instance of his name coming to them was once the IgG was in the IgG results, right? Mm-hmm. That we already know that was December 27th, I think it was. So they arrest him on December 29th or the morning of December 30th, one of those. So what you're telling me is that you had all this data. You get his name on the 27th. You know nothing about him, but you get his name on the 27th. Two days later, you have put together everything about his path of travel and everything from all the data you collected, because now you have a name, you have a phone number that correlates to that name, and you spend the next 48 hours balls to the wall building a rock solid fucking case against this guy and writing a fucking 19-20 page PCA and getting a fucking arrest warrant. You're absolutely fucking high.
Wait, that was a team effort.
I don't give a fuck. You also know where the fuck he's at, and you have people in fucking Pennsylvania watching him. How the fuck did you not know about him? How did you know about him on the 29th, but have people surveilling, or on the 27th, and get people surveilling him in Pennsylvania the same fucking day? You're lying.
No. Wait. They put a fucking camera in his yard on the 25th of December on Christmas Day. Back up a little bit. Yeah, they had his name before. How far back? I don't even know if that even matters, because having his name, right? And then And then doing the shit they did eradicates he should have been dropped as a suspect. The minute they saw that car travel south and they realized that they couldn't put him at that house, the argument he turned his phone off because that's what criminals do is an asshole paper argument. There's just, this guy was never a criminal. You can't apply the standard to a guy that's a PhD in criminology is turning off his phone because that's what the guy's not a criminal. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's insane. It's like accusing your neighbor of being a meth dealer. An 88-year-old guy that can barely fucking get out his front door is the meth dealer of the fucking town. It's a ridiculous accusation to suggest that guy, just like to suggest he turned his phone off. They don't know. I suppose that it left the Moscow coverage. That's what I suppose happened. I don't suppose he turned the phone off. I suppose that by going south, he disconnected from the towers in, what's the name of the town? Moscow.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know about cell towers. You see, so if his phone disconnects and picks up another tower, you could make the argument his phone was turned off, I guess, if you're an idiot. But if you honestly followed the travel of the phone, you'd say, well, oh no, it's on these towers. And I think that's what this guy, Cy Ray, is going to show. That Brian Kohlberger's phone may not have been in use, but it changed towers at that time. And that change of towers, they're interpreting as he turned it off. You follow me?
Yeah.
This whole case is the worst accused case, the worst evidentiary case I've ever seen. I mean, my God, it's crazy. And I can't include anybody at the Banfield or any of the frats or any of the drug dealers or any of the Nazis or any of the, I can't even consider looking at any of them because the accusations in front of us include the players that are in this game. And that includes the two people that were in that home before, during, and after the crime that then waited a subsequent 8 hours. How can you have that conversation and think all of that chaos is going on and none of your friends are answering your phone calls or your text and not call the police? What would keep you from calling the police?
Guilt.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Cletus. Exactly. Guilt. 100% guilt on potentially Dylan Mortensen's actions. They're so guilty with what she did there. And just because she's a good-looking blonde, you don't treat her. If that Dylan was a man, if Bethany was Bob, right? What if he was named Cletus? You know, you would have been hauled down to that station and stripped.
Well, so one of the things for me, right, is we don't know what they did or didn't do in regards to Bethany and Dylan. We don't know. But what I think is a safe assumption is that at the end of the day, they did not have a fucking case on anybody. I mean, the PCA, the fucking what we've seen, and I haven't even seen everything that's been out in the past year. But what we had seen up until that point and what I saw in like 4 documents today tells me you didn't have anything. And you rushed a fucking arrest based on some bullshit fucking information, and you built a case around that fucking information, and you absolutely fucking lied in more of it than you told the truth. And it's damn near proven at this point. And it's fucking insane to me.
You see this kid in court, he's lost all kinds of weight. He's all fucking, you could just see him. His neck is shriveling. The fucking kid's dying. And look at, people don't understand what it is to be on the spectrum. You know what I mean? Like I just told you earlier, I could pop through 20 streams in a couple hours and find out everything they're sharing with the public with no trouble whatsoever. I don't even want to listen to them. I just read the documents they post. Then it got to the point where I got in front of them and I had to go get my own link and read my own documents, which I was trying to avoid. But I did, you know, and there just is no case to point to Brian Kohlberger. And here's the thing I wanted to point out. There's 2 things that could be true here. One, the button snap on the knife sheath is stainless steel. That's one possibility. Unlikely, but possible. 2, and I find this to be most likely, the button snap on the sheath is brass. Because, now let's go with the idea that it's brass. That being true, no DNA, I don't care if it's elephant DNA, can survive on brass for anything up to even 4 hours of time. it becomes molecularly debunked by the brass. Just like copper kills algae, copper kills. They paint boats. On the bottom they paint them with copper paint because copper repels different kinds of things. Brass does the same thing. If it's stainless, then that sample could be on there for years. So there's an argument here that we're not aware of as to whether it was a brass snap or a stainless snap. But either way, the argument favors Brian. But if it's brass, then I would suggest that somehow, some way, in the transfer or handling of that knife, less than 4 hours prior to it getting to the lab, that's where the DNA came onto that knife. And I suspect that's why their initial query found 4 brothers, not Brian Kohlberger, because that's something a lot of the guilters want to ignore. The Othram sample, in its original form, you can call it a low count or whatever, but the count wasn't so low that they couldn't identify the perpetrators, potential perpetrators, right? So then you add the knife sheath. They didn't test that like they did Kohlberger's. Then you add the gloves. Then you add the railing. You got all of this blood all in places that might, specifically gloves and the knife sheath. I mean, who would argue the knife sheath having blood on it wouldn't be relevant? How could you make that argument?
Right.
Right. DNA underneath her fingernails. 3 different types of DNA under her fingernails. Even if it had hers one, you're right. It could have came from anywhere. We don't know if it was blood though, Cletus. Right. We don't know what was taken from under the fingernails.
We just know it was a 3 DNA mixture under her fingernails on her left hand. That's what we know.
Right. And so you've got that DNA, the knife DNA, the glove DNA, the railing DNA, and then accordingly they claim Brian's DNA, which originally was thought to be from one of the group of 4 brothers, names of which we won't know and shouldn't know. But the fact that they didn't run those to the ground and their excuses, we couldn't upload them to CODIS. No one was asking you to upload them to CODIS, you twit. Why didn't you send it to the FBI for IgG work like you did Kohlberger's sample? You follow me?
Oh, yeah.
The argument by the cop is that, well, if we'd have uploaded the sample, it would have erased the sample that was already uploaded, which doesn't make any sense, but okay. So why worry about CODIS? Why not send it to do the IgG work on all this other DNA? They didn't do that. In other words, there's no explanation. Even Judge Hippler says, well, that might just indicate co-conspirators. Well, I'm sorry, Judge Hippler, you stupid motherfucker. But if there's a possibility for co-conspirators, shouldn't the family and victims, survivors, shouldn't they have all of these people in front of a fucking judge? Isn't that the cop's job? Or is it just your job as a cop to be fucking observant to protect your prosecution? You fucking jerk off. That judge pisses me off. He makes a statement. They could be co-conspirators. Okay, asshole, go find out who they are then. Take the DNA and test it. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
What kind of a fucking judge said something like that? Oh, my God. Security says, this case is shot. I think they targeted him somehow. Just can't figure out the motive yet.
I'll tell you the fucking motive. I think we've seen enough to pretty well say this is most likely the motive. They had no fucking idea. They've got an inadequate and fucking, we'll just go with inadequate to be nice, police force. You have an Idaho State Patrol who's already fabricated shit in another fucking case that really is similar to this one in the way that it was done. And you have a college town that needs this to fucking go away before enrollment starts for the upcoming fucking semester. And then what happens that supports that even more is you launder the fucking property into the fucking school to build housing.
Yep.
You were out of room. You were up shit's creek. You had no fucking solution. You got something that you thought you could make a fucking case with. You built a case around the poor bastard that you named, and you made a fucking arrest so that the town didn't fucking suffer from this tragedy any more than it already had. And ultimately, you potentially let a fucking killer remain at large.
Killer or killers.
Right.
You know, listen, I don't know what people think, but I'll tell you something. When you get into a battle with another human being, these people out here, these jerk-off guilters say, no, you could take someone out in 10 or 20 seconds. You have no idea what you're talking about. You would have to have a fatal blow, one blow fatal to 2 people quickly. The first blow must be fatal. There's no you start stabbing somebody and you are going to get pushback for these people. They're going to fight back, as evident by what we've been told. It was the bloodiest scene they'd ever seen. Blood everywhere. Victims stabbed, one girl maybe as many as 58 times. What you think and perceive to be a 10 or 20-second crime shows that you've never been a criminal. You've never been in a battle with another human being, be it man or woman, to obtain an objective, whether it be to get the coke out of their fucking pocket like I went through, or it be to fucking try to get out of a knife fight where someone just tried to stab me in the chest and it hit the zipper of my coat and saved me. People don't realize how much time goes by. Time slows for the people in the action, but the clock on the fucking wall doesn't give a fuck what you're doing, okay? It's going to continue to move, right? So the idea that these crimes could be done in a brutal fighting, even Zaina fought her ass off, and to be able to get out of there in just a few minutes, and for Dylan to argue that she thought she heard someone playing with the dog, to think that she would make those statements in the PCA, yet none of the testimony that they're releasing to us even comes close to confirming the statements in the PCA. It's absolutely incredible to me.
I'm kind of starting to, I don't know, my brain's been kind of locked in since we read those, or read the 911 call. And I was thinking about, I've been trying to put together the puzzle in my mind of the layout and the arrangement of Zaina and Ethan's room, because one of the big problems that I've always really had, but didn't spend a lot of time on that I can remember, was the door being partially blocked by Ethan. And I know we've talked about this a long time ago.
Yeah.
Was it in fact Kaylee and Maddie that were first? Because I really am starting to think that it may be a situation where Zaina and Ethan were first, and Kaylee and Maddie were secondary.
No, I find that hard to believe. Here's why I find that hard to believe. It's in this statement that she peeked out of her door. Well, and unfortunately, the only direction you could peek out of her door is to the living room. There's no other way to peek.
I do not think she did anything that's in that PCA. I don't think she did any of it. I don't
think she did either. I agree with you, but I'm saying if you take the data that they're giving us, that's the argument they make.
Well, but if you take the data that they give us, you have to throw everything that they reference about what Dylan said out the fucking window, because none of it can be proven to be fact, because either she's got trauma out the ass and can't fucking remember shit, she was high and can't remember shit, or she did it and doesn't want to tell the truth. One of those three things has to be fucking true. So
the only one that makes sense consistently is she's avoiding telling the truth. She's hiding something.
So my point ultimately is fuck what she said or what they said she said. I'm talking about the scene and what makes sense. And one of the problems I've always had is Ethan blocking the door, because that tells me that he was most likely the last one to go. And him blocking the door tells me that it was kind of a defensive thing.
Isn't it with the 911 call that they said it was Zaina?
No,
Zaina is discussed as not breathing. Isn't that what was said?
Right, but the report of when the cop in the PCA, Ethan was partially blocking the door, which leads me to believe that the door was partially open and they could just see.
I don't think that was said in the PCA.
Okay.
I don't believe that statement of Ethan blocking the door had anything to do with the PCA. It's been on YouTube channels that he was blocking the door, and the assumption that we've all gone along with, because I forget where that came from, was that he had to force the door. They couldn't open the doors. That's why they called for help. We still don't know why they called outside people first. That's another problem. Everything Dylan did is so guilty on its face that there's no other way to view her actions. None. She has to have had some involvement somehow. You can't be in frozen shock face and then a drunken fucking bitch that can't even fucking talk, that draws eyes on the wall and then watches horror movies and don't know if you were living in a dream. And then the police write a PCA that makes it look like you were upright and everything was, you were conscious, you were alert. What the police are pointing out is so contradictory to her story. And it's like they tried to clean up her story to fit a narrative.
Well, I
mean, that can't be true.
In fairness, what they point out is either contradictory or tells that she was literally, and I know we've joked about this before, but was literally looking in the fucking mirror on the back of the door if one was there, because she describes herself.
That's what I'm saying. She does describe herself when she says he was a little bit taller than me, all dressed. I don't even know. Look at. For me, I feel bad even having to say this. I don't know who this girl is, and I don't want to falsely accuse anybody, nor more than I want to see Koberger put in jail if he didn't do it, but definitely want him in jail if he did. But the evidence, and that's the big struggle on true crime, is that everybody wants to decide whether the guy's innocent or guilty based on stories they hear or things they believe. Now you see a picture of a car, right? That the headlights are so bright to the camera that the picture is useless. And I want to go further. I believe that the picture they're supplying the defense is not the footage that the cop identified the 11 to 13 from. I think they're withholding evidence. And the reason I say that, Cletus, is that's a video camera. It records constant movement. Where is that camera before it pulled in when he came in around the corner? It's pointed in a way that camera would likely be alerted from the stop sign forward. How about where's the 3-point turn? Where's that footage?
Right.
Where's all the footage they claim that he drove around the house? Why aren't those images the ones that are being supplied to the defense? Where's all that imagery? And I think it's Heather said she's got that. But I suspect that imagery, that if you're able to combine a consecutive amount of images on Willinta Drive or on King or Queen Road, okay? If you can connect enough images, I think it's at that point that you will conclusively see that this is an 11 to 13. And the whole case gets blown out of the water before they even get started. And I think that they're holding that back. That's my opinion on what I'm watching. The PCA has to have been derived from something. They had to have had some idea that they could verify what they were saying. Maybe they were hoping for a plea deal, like this kid was going to bail. And they drag him out. They leave a guy in jail. They leave him there. They don't file discovery. They just keep putting it off and arguing and this and that. And meanwhile, the world views that as the defense playing games. Like another topic, this autism. This autism isn't being used to give an excuse for why he did it. This autism is a required, it has to be, this has to be given to the court. It has to be.
I haven't read it, but I saw the document, and it's only being presented to avoid the death penalty.
And that's why it's being presented at all. And a lot of people are just too stupid to know that. In a capital murder case, mitigating circumstances have to be disclosed. If he's mentally retarded, right, that has to be disclosed. If he's got some kind of a mental fucking problem, that then will then either... The jury needs to know that. Do you want to kill a retard? No matter how bad the crime is, who's going to convict a retard and can put him to death? You're just not going to do that. So that document is not a document to say, I did it, but my autism caused it. It's a document that's completely focused on the death penalty and mitigating reasons why there shouldn't be a death penalty. It's standard procedure, in other words.
Yeah.
And that's I see a lot of streamers. This proves is this Brian admitting it and blaming his autism? No, you can't read, fucking drunk turkey motherfucker. Licking the fucking ass of that.
I haven't even read the document. I just read the
dumpster.
I just read the title on the link, and I already can surmise what the fucking purpose of the claim is. It's literally in the fucking title of the document. It's not a defense. It's about the death penalty.
Only.
Yeah.
Only. Yes. Yes. If this were a drunk driver that killed people, this document, he could face murder. Let's say he could face a death penalty as a result of that, right? Through gross negligence, which in some states is probably allowed. This document would be filled out by the defense counsel. That's just the way it goes in a death sentence. I mean, like I said, you don't want to put a retard to death, even if you know he did it. Right? You put him in an institution until he dies. Yeah, the 911 call is everything that they did is bad. She started to bring up the 4 a.m. story on the phone call to the police to help people to come help. Did you see that?
What?
They make the call to the police, and part of the chaos is the phone's being passed around. But I don't know who one of the girls, DM or Bethany, had the phone and was making the story up that it started at 4 a.m.
That's what I said. She keeps referencing that 4 a.m. Right? someone broke into our house, or we saw someone in the house. And then
hang on. For those that don't know, hang on. This is the great Clue Minotti, not to be mistaken as a first and last name. It's one word, Clue Minotti. Okay, go ahead.
But it's almost like she's telling the dispatcher, right? Because there's even a statement in there that says, well, can I just tell you what happened pretty much or basically or something? It's like she's already starting to tell a story on the phone with dispatch.
Do you think that any of the answers that she gave to the police were answers of confidence or answers of trying to cover her tracks?
I mean, you know how I feel about her, so.
Yep.
My verdict's still out on that one. I think it's suspicious as shit, and I think it's an utter fucking disappointment that they arrested a guy that they cannot fucking convict because everything that they're presenting has already been proven to either be wrong or a straight fucking lie. And you know, I would absolutely want answers as to what the fuck did you do to investigate the two most likely fucking suspects.
Oh my God! Wait! Oh my fucking God! Look what Nick Mutton just said. What is it? Listen, look. I gotta highlight this. Look what he just said. Look what he just said. Nick Mutton. I don't know what it is. Look what he just said. He doesn't even know what he's saying.
Yes, he does.
Where did Dylan go after? Listen, where did Dylan go after 4:24 a.m.?
I said that on the show tonight. I said the blood on the handrail is literally on the way down to Bethany's room, which Dylan went to.
Is she a transgender, ladies and gentlemen? I hate to besmirch her, but that would be fucking crazy, wouldn't it?
I don't give a fuck. But
but that would give you a male DNA sample, dude. That would indicate unknown male.
Yeah, but look, at the end of the day, here's the question. Is there a handrail going up the stairs to Kaylee and Maddie's room?
Yeah, now that I have to look
So
at.
then how do we know that it's on the handrail between going downstairs to Bethany's room?
We don't.
Because it's between the first and second floor of the blood on the handrail.
It's stated so in a document.
Yes, sir. It's stated in documentation. You know me, I got the facts all buried up in my little brain here.
She did that shit, man.
But let me just say that just closes the door more on Dylan's suspicion. We know she went down those stairs. Did she interact with the people that were involved in that crime?
Yeah.
Did she accidentally? Did she? Well, let's just say there were other people there that did it. Even if she didn't do it, how did the male DNA get on there? Indicates there was someone else there with her. That person got injured. She may have tried to help that person. That's where the blood prints outside of her door. You understand? So my point is, you can build a strong circumstantial case and lock that woman up more effectively than you can against Brian Koberger and the happy fucking horse. If I went to a party and that's the shit you presented me with, you'd all be fucking lifeless. I wouldn't put up with that at all. I'd be fucking people. You all need to go. I mean, how do you show up to a party where you're supposed to bring your own and you show up with the kind of stuff they're throwing at Koberger? And yet there's somebody that you could actually paint a picture, a step-by-step picture from the person's own mouth and from their own actions that actually fit the crime scene. I'm stunned that nobody is, you're not allowed to talk about their victims. They may in fact be victims, but I'm sorry, this is still an unsolved crime and they're part of the narrative. So therefore, to me, those people are fair game. Now, somebody saying that they pissed on Ethan's face in a parking lot is just ridiculously an unfair game and filthy, right? So reflections from the moon don't matter to me, or the Grubhub truck matters not to me. They're not mentioned in any of this case.
So let's say this, right? Is it a fair statement to say that if, in fact, Dylan is responsible, Bethany is 100% aware of it and was 100% aware of it? Or do you think that's a fair statement? Because I do. Because she tells her to run to her room.
No, I don't think Bethany had. I think Bethany is like this. You see pictures of her, man. I used to target chicks like that. They're just wallflowers. And they're followers. They're not leaders.
In fairness, Sarge, there's probably as many people that would say the same about, or say that exact statement about Bethany that would say the same about Dylan. So
not if you stood them next to each other. I don't think you could make that statement about Dylan.
Fuck your personal preferences or opinions of what they look like. Or
listen,
that. I mean, at the end of the day,
Cooch has a look. That's just it. I'm just saying.
At the end of the day, what I'm getting at is based on the text messages.
Look at even Susie thinks that's a relevant topic. She's laughing.
If they're based on the text messages, I find it hard to believe if Dylan is responsible for this, that Bethany knows nothing about it.
Well, we also don't know what time she went down to her room. So let's be clear about this too. There's more text after 4:24, isn't there?
Yeah, I'm guessing like 4:25-ish.
There isn't there texts after that?
Yeah, but they're to the other people in the house.
Okay, all right. So we don't know where she was when she sent those messages.
Yeah, because she tells her come down here at like 4:24.
And their texting stops.
Well,
between each other, yes.
My biggest issue, right, is the shit that's said in the text messages from Bethany, specifically about Xana wearing all black, right? And then telling her to run down there, Dylan saying something like, I'm screwed. And then if Bethany isn't aware of it and she sees how rattled Dylan is, they choose to not call anybody that could come and take a look, come and help clear the house, anything. Fuck LE, anybody. The goddamn next door neighbors. You don't fucking bother calling anybody until 10 something the next fucking morning. I have a really hard time sitting and saying that it's a possibility Dylan did it without considering that if that's true, Bethany more than likely was aware of or involved in it. I have a really hard time with that.
I see you can't see where both didn't have some knowledge or a part of it. And that's a fair point to make. I just don't see Dylan's statements. We don't know anything about what Dylan did or didn't do. But imagine if you were asking a girl if she cheated on you, who was in the house, and she tells you this story, right, of somebody in a mask clad in black right out the back door. Would you believe your girlfriend if she told you that? No, you wouldn't. So now here's the same girl in a murder scene, and she's telling you that. And yet she said she looked right at the guy. It was 3 feet apart. Look right at her. She says this. And he didn't attack her.
Well, and here's the other fucking problem I have, right, with the whole he turned and went out the back door, which she didn't say. He started walking toward the back door. Law enforcement kind of implies that he went out the back door. But for the blood to be on the handrail between the first and second floor would pretty much imply that he went out the fucking front door.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that those two girls left the property and ended up at the frat? We don't know. They said the door was open at 8 o'clock. Some neighbor walking a dog. That's been a rumor. There's no confirmation of that at this point. But so, the idea that you woke up at 10 something and you didn't go check the house, or you didn't, I guess maybe they called them people over. They were so scared they had to call people over to check the house for them. I understand that. But why weren't you doing that, like you're saying, 4:30 in the morning?
Yeah.
Why would you go to sleep?
You're not too scared to walk around in the morning if you weren't so scared that you called 911 the night before. Fuck that. Like,
they needed time. That time has a value here. And it can't be that I went to sleep. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They had to have heard these people's phones ringing when they were calling them. Think about that. She called these victims. You mean to tell me everybody had their ringer off? To my knowledge, I'm probably one of the only people in the world that have a cell phone with no ringer on. I don't want to hear it ring. Okay?
Well, and here's one of the other reasons why I'm extremely fucking interested in the layout or the arrangement of Dylan or Xana and Ethan's room that morning. If that's bullshit and he wasn't partially blocking the door, let's say they were both in the bed like it's been described Kaylee and Maddie were, then I would have a really hard time believing it was anybody unknown to that house.
Well, I just can't find someone that had. Go ahead.
I find it hard to believe because we know Xana wasn't asleep. We know she wasn't. The PCA implies that she wasn't, or she had just
4:12 a.m. on TikTok.
Right. So what you're basically telling me is somebody unknown. If Zayna and Ethan were in the bed, let's say that's where they were found, then what you would have me believe is that somebody unknown to this home and these people came in, went upstairs, killed 2 people while they were asleep, one, waking up during the act, whatever, and then walks downstairs, busts through a door of a grown man and a grown woman who is still awake or just went to sleep and killed both of them as well. You're wanting me to believe that. Like, I have a hard time with that, because who the fuck's not going to jump out of that bed?
Right. And how many drunk people are going to be turning their phone off? I see what you're saying, Demon Dog, but you're young people and in your teens, I don't know that you have the thought of mind to turn your phone off. All 4 of these, well, 5 now, because that would be 6, including Bethany. You mean to tell me everybody turned their phone ringers off that night? I find that hard to believe. I find it impossible. I can't believe that at all. Can't even consider it. Now, you and I may turn our ringers off. We're older people that they think of the phone as a phone. For these people, it's their whole life. It's their video. It records. It's their imaging. It's their games. It's their everything. They treat their phones with more intimacy than people our age we treated our cars when we were kids, right? Got a rusty old fucking $200 car and you're out there waxing it. I get it. Right?
Gray Pearl said something about then she was rushing to tell what had happened the night before on the call. In all honesty, that's probably working more in their favor for me than against them. Because I don't think if you had made up a story and both had sat, and because let's be real, if one of them did it, they absolutely they had to have fucking sat in that room and get the fucking story straight, which means the other one absolutely fucking knew about it. For them to rush to tell 911 what had happened the night before makes me skeptical that they knew anything about it, whoever was trying to say that. Right? Because why would you rush that?
I'm sorry. I still can't get past. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. The sun is up. You haven't heard anything out of place all night long. You were able to sleep. Nothing happened to you. And instead of getting your fucking ass out of the bed and walking the fuck upstairs, you text your friend who's allegedly asleep upstairs, and you don't say, "What's up?" You say, "Please answer."
Right. Yeah. That person knew they were dead.
Yes, thank you.
Clue, you and I think a lot alike. That's kind of cool. Sadly. Cletus. You guys, are you two married yet? That's the question of the day.
No, at this rate, I think Carl and Miss W may get there before we do.
Holy shit, they just met, and they met in this chat room of all places to meet. Can you guys believe that my foul mouth love was born within the tirade of Sarge? Oh, I can't believe that. Oh my God. Maybe Carl can bang around corners. Who knows? You never know. I don't want to know. How about if I should never have said that? But I don't know. Love was born in my chat room. And believe it or not, I guess anything is possible. Maybe Koberger is like Casper the Friendly Ghost when he needs to get into places to kill people. Just not how to get out of jail, though, for whatever reason. Oh, my God. Yeah, I'm just incensed with the everything I had pointed out in the beginning about the PCA not meeting probable cause. I don't care what these courts are ruling in Idaho. There is no probable cause laid out to identify Koberger involved in that crime. It's woulda, coulda, shoulda, I think. And to me, if Americans were really Americans, if you really understood the law, you would understand that the preliminary hearing was key to this whole case. That probably would have thrown this case out of the courtroom. What did the prosecution do? From the very beginning, they didn't provide discovery. They didn't provide the information that was in the PCA that would verify the argument they made in the PCA. They held all that shit back. She didn't get the pictures from around the house until 2024. The crime happened in 2022. The preliminary hearing was set for June of 2023. And she didn't have discovery. He was forced to forego his right to a speedy trial. They had no idea what the police had against him. And too bad he should have been bold and said, "I'm not dropping it." It's a shame the kid didn't do that, man. We're going to welcome someone here to the stage. It's Gray. Don't be gray hues because I'll just boot you.
It's Gray Pearl. Come on now. Hi, Sarge. Hi, Cletus.
Hey.
I'm just here to hang out because it's 10 o'clock. So Cletus you're either going to drop him soon or he's going to drop
No,
himself.
I'm not kicking
so.
him. I figure we could probably keep him for a few. Cletus.
Sergeant.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
I'm not going to boot you, I promise. But,
I'm just here for backup.
All right. Well, Cletus, what else you got? You said the cell phone stuff. You brought that up.
Yeah, I mean we
The
haven't
text?
dug into it, all the paperwork. Just I mean, fucking all fairness, I just discovered how much there was tonight while she was live, and so just the first 2 or 3 things I pulled up was a huge fucking issue for me. And the first one that I pulled up was that the one that shows the photos of the car at the from the house next door, and I'm it's fucking hilarious because it's almost exactly as you envisioned it would be, right? It's a blurry fucking picture of a white car that could, I think I can say it's fair to say that it's probably an Elantra. I don't really have any doubt with that. I'll believe that.
Well, don't believe in information. Don't believe in anything. You got to have the facts to show you that's what it is.
No, but I'm saying I don't think it's unreasonable to assume to give them some grace and say that it's probable that they came to the determination it was an Elantra. I can see the picture and see a fucking Elantra. It's not like it's a fucking pickup or anything.
Well, if you look at that picture, let me just say, if you look at that picture side by side to an Elantra, the rear angle of the window, the rear window of the car, the angle, the slope, and the curvature of the roof are different.
Well, but the thing that the identifiable characteristics that separate the 11 to 13 versus the 14 to 16, you cannot fucking see in those photos.
No, but I'm making the argument that they might have been the law enforcement car in that area that we saw. That may have been a Ford. The Ford looks just like it. Yep. And so when that goofy guy there, get it.
I don't think it was the Fusion because it's got a body line on the back fender that doesn't match the Fusion at all. That much I did see. So,
well, the curvature of the roof is different. And the Elantra that he posted today, Know-It-All, what's his name there? He's got a new name though. Murphy Knows All or something. I don't know what it's called. He put a picture of the Elantra on the same screen as the. Go ahead.
Sorry. He's talking about the Banfield footage.
No. He took the footage that's in the release documents with the bright headlights that you can't see shit in, and he put an Elantra up on the screen in that photo, and said that it's in the, he said I can't tell for sure, but the back deck, the curvature on the Elantra, it's a sharp drop, and on this there's a slight curve to it. He goes, that may not even be an Elantra. You can't tell, but he did see that. That was the first thing that caught his eye. So he's pretty good at looking at these little minute details. And sadly, he wasted all his time on Linda Lane, which just doesn't appear to be a part of this case at all. So, that's what I said when Linda Lane came out. There was a red herring, and it kept us off the topic of Dylan Mortensen. It was Rory's show, it was Dago's show, and it was another guy, I think maybe CJ, maybe not. And we were all going to move to the topic and to look into Dylan. And that night, we were supposed to come back the next day. The next day, we were supposed to come back and discuss Dylan. And at 5 p.m. that night, that Linda Lane footage was dropped. And I told Dago and I told the other guys, ignore it. It's a red herring. And everybody just ran with it. And then eventually I walked away for several months. I was like, anyway.
And then
it is what it is. What?
She said,
what'd you say?
She said, and then he found me.
Cletus!
Talking about her.
Yeah, I came back and I found Cluminati. One word, Cluminati. Yeah, your stream when you were doing that stuff was awesome. I go into your stream every time I see it's up. I don't usually say something, but like I jumped in that stream today because I knew you were there. I don't even know who them people are.
I figured.
I seen the link in the thing. I was like, fuck, I'm going to chat it and bust Clue's balls. I'm probably not even their cup of tea, which is fine by me. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, as everybody will testify to, right, Cletus?
Only Monday through Friday.
But yeah, Saturdays and Sundays
at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Holy shit. That shit ain't right, man.
I don't know. Yeah. The way they're painting Dylan is just suspect as shit to me. Like, The bitch doesn't know if what she saw was real. It could have been a dream. She's got eyebrows painted on her wall. I mean, it's almost like.
Why would the policeman ask her the question about eyebrows? That's the weirdest thing. I can't even imagine. Did you see his eyes? No. And then he goes to his eyebrows. How about the color?
That was crazy to me tonight, finding out. I had no idea that she had like drawings of eyebrows and eyes painted on her wall before then. That's crazy.
That's an impressionable thing for a person, right? You see that every day. That's the thing you're into. But why did the policeman have to bring it to her attention?
I agree.
Because
she never said she saw a guy with bushy eyebrows.
Do we know which interview and what date it was that they
I think it was the second interview. It was 4 days later.
Which is
second
really
or third
weird.
interview or something.
Which is really weird because it's the statement that she gives describing him not in quotations.
Just not the part about the bushy eyebrows.
Okay. Are we sure?
Well, let's not forget.
What else did she say?
It was either the 5'10" or taller.
Yes.
Must
all clad in black.
Well,
With
but
Clad in
bushy
black with bushy with a mask and bushy eyebrows. That's the description placed in the PCA, but that's not what she told the police.
but what's in the quotation?
All of that.
Oh.
And that's the catch-22 is for that to have been sufficient for probable cause. I mean, then fuck probable cause. Just guess. Let's just guess who did it. Oh, you think this? Let's go arrest that person, and we'll worry about it later. We'll then we'll check their cell phone. Then we'll do this. Then we'll do that. And as long as they lived in a nearby house, we'll paint a picture to convict these people. That's what happened here. It's just a tragedy beyond understanding. And worst of all, is this doesn't mean he didn't do it. Right?
Yeah.
What a tragedy, man. There isn't any one single piece of evidence that can place Koberger in that house at the time of the crime. DNA is circumstantial. In every single case where DNA is present, it is circumstantial evidence. And the only way it becomes direct evidence is when that DNA can have a timeline of events that lead to its placement at the time of the crime. If you can't do that, then that is not evidence of a crime. It can't tell you what time it showed up. It can't tell you whether it showed up at the crime, before the crime, during the crime, when he was leaving the room, when he was walking or driving. The DNA is useless. You have to be able to show enough factual understanding to the jury that it was these series of events that he did that placed him in this house. And there is not a single thing that I've seen that even comes close to that. And the only people I know that are in the house that are lying to us happen to be people that we're all supposed to call victims. Right? And is it really her lying? Here's the other side of it. Let me just do the other
say, right?
I just do the other side of it. Is it her lying or is it the cops lying and trying to patsy her off?
Well, and that's where I have the problem in the things that we know now versus what we knew then. And I lean more toward the cops have proven to lie. I mean, there's a fucking document that was filed in the past 2 weeks that's an absolute fucking lie, talking about his name the first time being when they got the IgG results. That's a fucking lie. So now I know who is a liar. So the only question really is Dylan a liar, or did they make a lie out of her statement? And we kind of know already that is true. So we can't really even.
Well, let's look at direct evidence that could have potentially connected her to this crime. Footprint, blood on a railing going to the first floor. That could have been transferred blood that came from her hand because the person that left the footprint was the murderer, and she offered aid.
Yeah, but let's go down to what the direct evidence is that she's lied, because that's where I'm real. If I can get down with finding evidence that she's lied, then I can support that. But right now, I don't even have any direct evidence in my mind that she lied. I have a lot.
Well, I think you do. I think you do.
Okay, what is it?
I'm drunk. I'm confused. I don't know if it was a dream or if it was real. I can't really tell you what happened. I don't know.
Okay,
that's
that's
no, those are lies, bro.
But that was our interpretation. I don't think she ever said that.
No, it's in the documents. It's in the documents they just released and just gave us the 3 interviews that she had.
Okay.
And
No. I'm not versed on the new stuff. I'm gonna be
okay.
totally honest.
So over and over again in every interview, she from the beginning, I don't know what happened. I was drunk. I was out of my mind. I might have been sleeping. I could have been dreaming. That story is the same story she stuck to the whole time, Cletus. But that's nowhere in the PCA. The PCA interpreted that as, oh, a man clad in black wearing a mask with bushy eyebrows, practically athletic build and 5'10".
So
how do you derive that? Right.
But hold on, we're confusing what's in the PCA with whether she's lying or not. And at the end of the day,
No.
Hold on. Let me finish a train of thought, just real quick. We know her claiming she was fucked up. She doesn't really remember. That's her statement, right? That's a consistent.
Yeah.
Okay. We also know in the text messages that you could draw the conclusion that she sounds panicked. She sounds rattled, right?
Yeah.
Those two things combined don't necessarily contradict each other. So that's my point, right? I get the suspicion, but is it in fact a lie? Do we know it to be a lie?
No, we don't know that to be a lie. However, in the totality of the other circumstances, it's more likely to be viewed that way, in my opinion. She's doing everything she can to take the focus off of herself. Everything that she spoke made her completely, clean as the driven snow. I don't know. I think he was a fireman. I think he had a bushy eyebrow. One eyebrow. Let's be clear. One eyebrow was bushy. The dude must have had a unibrow. He must have looked like Bigfoot Jr.
I won't lie that the fireman aspect of it is very interesting, considering the wounds. And Clue was talking earlier about, let's not forget there was a axe throwing competition in town that weekend.
There was, yeah.
And fireman will have an axe, will he not?
Well, you got the assholes like Drunk Turkey suggesting he carried like a fucking DNA vacuum on his back or something.
Yeah.
Right? These people are they interpret, this woman has said everything that makes no sense whatsoever. And either you're a dead set lunatic, okay?
Oh,
and
yeah.
and how could you be at that college if you're as stupid as this girl portrays herself to be? Right? And how could you be in that house? Right?
Her mom works for the college, just saying.
Nonetheless, you're as dumb as the dumb could be based on what she's telling us. You're a drug-addled, alcoholic fucking idiot with nightmares. Right? Yet you made it all the way to this college. She had to have some kind of schooling to get there. So I don't buy that. And you're talking to a guy that was a criminal. There's lots of things we say. And then even when they're spit back at you,
it's not hard to get into a state school.
Well,
especially when a parent works there. It's not.
But is it hard to just you got to jump right away? You drive everything away from you. Her statements are all in defense of herself. Nobody can deny.
I'm with you.
Why is she defending herself, Cletus?
Even in the 911 call.
I know everything she does is to defend herself.
If she's the person that starts to tell the story about what happened at 4 a.m., which I highly suspect she is, I think Bethany trying to tell it would make no sense to me at all as to why there's not more statements in regards to Bethany. But so I'm assuming that is Dylan trying to tell that story. I do agree. If it was Bethany, I really don't know that if it's Bethany, I don't know. I would be curious to know what the fuck else Bethany has to say about the sequence of events of the nights. If that was Bethany talking, saying, let me tell you what happened at 4 a.m., blah, blah, blah.
Well, I mean, she would have been talking to Dylan when she got in the room.
I know.
It's a tragedy. It really is. Do you see
the screen? That
somebody said somebody ran away nude, and I said I can't run nude. Third leg just drags.
Is it possible that this was a planned thing that Dylan was a part of, and
I don't know.
Well, just hear me out. That she was told that whether drugs were involved or whether it was a sorority fraternity beef or whatever it was, but there were a group of people that were going to go after Kaylee and Xana or Ethan for whatever reason. Is it possible that she was supporting them and being like the lookout, or the reporter who said, okay, they're coming home now, the car's pulling up the driveway, and didn't really understand that it was gonna
Well,
escalate
I mean,
to murders.
well, let's
And
just,
then, go ahead.
here's the thing. If she has culpability in this, it's either ancillary or direct. And to even think that about a victim is hard to do unless you have a victim like Dylan, where her entire put on is everything except her. It's, not to be rude, women, but that's what happens in an argument between men and women. We're pissed off that you did something, and we're irritated, and then you say something about what we did in the past and start a whole new argument. It's like, no, let's stick with the argument about what I'm upset about with you right now. And it never works out, man. So my advice is just don't confront women. Just let it go. And that's kind of what's happening here to Dylan. Everybody's
women are very different than men.
Yeah. She's a victim. Okay. I can accept that, but I can't accept that based on the story and the layout of that house and what we know to be present in that house. And we now know her travels that went from a second floor to the first floor. There is a footprint. There is a blood stain on the railing leading downstairs. So I'm not saying that has anything to do with Dylan, but it's more information about somebody's potential involvement than we have on Kohlberger. What do you think about that, Cletus?
I would want to know more about the blood on the handrail.
Yeah, we're never going to find out because it wasn't tested. It was unknown male DNA. And I was joking when I said transgender. I don't mean that at all. It was just being goofy because people said that in the beginning. She's a dude. It's crazy. But he just dropped. I don't know if that was intentional or not. But she could have transferred someone else's blood there. And that may be why it's not a good sample. It wasn't a direct deposit from the person's hand. It could have came off her sleeve. It could have came off her hand for all we know. Or it could be a direct deposit from the person involved in the murders. But according to the police, these murders took place on the second and third floor, and they excluded the first floor completely. So, is that their argument? That's why we didn't test the blood on the railing. The railing has nothing to do with it. We don't know how old that blood could be. It's like, Jesus Christ. Unbelievable. That's the kind of shiny workmanship we get from our police. Imagine if they framed your house. These same idiots came in and framed your house. You better not sneeze because that thing's going to collapse on top of your head. Gray Pearl.
What's up?
There you go. You could speak. Go ahead and share for a minute.
No, I guess from a woman's perspective, which we can agree, or at least I know you and I can agree, is more emotional than logical. There was also an issue with Maddie and Dylan on Halloween, which this happened in November, 11th, 13th, something like that. So on Halloween, Maddie posted a TikTok where, not to, speak ill of the dead, but she was kind of being a mean girl towards Dylan. Dylan was shown slumped on the floor, crying her eyes out in a Halloween costume, wearing a blue wig. So could Dylan have, wanted some type of revenge for that? It's possible. I don't know. I think that the stuff that came out tonight has made me more suspicious of Dylan than of both of the surviving roommates than less. I was already suspicious of them before. The shit that I learned tonight has made me more. It has not quashed that. I'm more suspicious.
He's saying, so I said there's 7 DNAs. There's the button snap. There's the back of the sheath, right? There's under the fingernails. That's 5. There's
We're
the
talking
gloves.
about Maddie?
There's the railing. That's 7. Yeah. So if you want to talk about how many DNA samples were in this house, there were 7. All that should be connected to the crime, right?
Are you talking about Maddie? I heard tonight that there were 3 different DNA under Maddie's fingernails. Is that one of the things you're talking about?
Yeah, but you see here on the screen, he says we have 3 unknown DNA, and that's not accurate. We have 6 unknown DNA.
Okay, well let me address the Maddie thing with the DNA. We all saw the pictures of them at the grub truck. Maddie was clearly wearing a black jacket, that was not hers. It was huge. It was oversized. She was cold at the football game and probably borrowed a jacket, or somebody put a jacket around her. So if you think about it, she's tailgating all day.
How do we know that?
Well,
Do we know that to be true, or is this just an assumption?
it's an assumption, but women
Yeah, let's
don't
not,
typically
please.
wear jackets that are 3 sizes too big for them unless
I
they're
know, but
cold.
we don't know that she was wearing a jacket 3 sizes too big, do we? We don't have. Do
Well,
we have? I mean,
from the
we saw
visuals,
the grub truck
from the
looked like she
visuals
had
in the
on.
grub truck, it sure as shit looked like it.
Yeah, it looked to me like she had on one of them big. What do you call those things? It didn't look like a male coat to me, as far as I could tell. But I didn't pay a lot of attention to it because I tried to ignore them videos. So
Well,
she
didn't have it on in the pictures that they took pregame.
Okay.
So, and then it was
Okay.
found on the side of the road. A week or so later, it was found in
A
a
jacket
tree on
was
the side
found.
of the road.
No, it was found
Um,
next to a fire hydrant on the ground. I remember that
Yes.
video. Yeah. So we don't know if that was her jacket, though.
We do not. But if
We
it
don't.
weren't, if she borrowed a male's jacket that was too, because she was cold, one of the DNAs could easily explained by her keeping her phone in the left pocket of that jacket and constantly reaching into the left
Right.
pocket
You could have
and
tested it now.
accumulating DNA under her nails from whoever
Oh,
owned that jacket,
okay.
right?
She could have picked
You
it
know
up.
what I'm saying?
Cletus pointed out when we were off, before we started the stream, that she could have been in a car with cloth seats or any seats and scratched the seat and got it from that. That's true
She
too.
could have. I
Right.
mean,
But here's the thing. All of those excuses are not valid excuses, because if they were, we wouldn't be arguing about transfer DNA on a button. Right? See, how it got there isn't really important. The fact of the matter is there's 3 DNA samples under her fingernail. That matters for them to have ran that lead down, and they didn't. And so to extrapolate or guess where it may have came from is like a futile exercise. There's just, you can't go anywhere with it.
I agree.
Because these
Instead, they
idiots
went
didn't
for
do their job. Yeah.
Instead, they went for a genetic match and went to Pennsylvania to take Koberger's parents' trash and try. No, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. But I'm saying there
Even
are
worse than that is if they didn't
explanations
do it,
for those other DNA.
all the DNA should have been run through IgG. If the button snap was important enough, then all the other ones should have been important enough. And I said this earlier, that the reason they narrowed it to Kohlberger so quickly, and the reason the DNA sample that the FBI used was 2.5 times bigger, was because they used all the medical information that's included with DNA. But you have to seek it out. That's why she keeps objecting to the DNA being used at all, because the only way they can identify Kohlberger is by two illegal actions. One, they used medical information that was in the DNA. That's illegal. To then go search people with that. That's private health information. 2, the other reason she argues it's illegal is the FBI guidelines requires you to save all your information, and if you are going to use this in court, to get warrants for the work you're doing. On those 2 grounds, and these judges don't approve it, they're idiots. Those 2 grounds should nix the DNA completely. They didn't find Kohlberger's name until they went into the databases that they honestly should have provided a warrant for. And they didn't. And I don't know how these courts keep saying that that's not relevant. The DNA is there. It is there, but that's like kicking down my front door. Those user agreements on those sites tell all the users that police can only access our site with your permission or a lawfully presented warrant. Those are the sites they found his name.
And
right?
I'm an amateur armchair lawyer, but when this whole thing first started, I thought it was open and shut because there's a thing called the fruit of the poisonous tree. And in my opinion, as soon as they took that DNA from the garbage in Pennsylvania and linked it to Koberger, that's the fruit of the poisonous tree. Like everything after that should have been thrown out. But
everything before that should never have been done, and it should have. See, look, the testing of the DNA by the FBI using medical information and databases that prohibit their actions in there, by using that to identify a suspect. Now, just listen to this for a minute. They call it a tip. And here's how it works. It's a wink, wink, nod, nod. Give me the sample, and I'll take it to places you could never dream of. I'll do things with this sample you couldn't possibly dream of. And that's what the FBI then does. And then they give the information to the prosecutor. The prosecutor gives it to the police. And what they were supposed to do was never mention the FBI, ever. You and I are not supposed to know the FBI is involved. Idaho fucked up. And they let it become known. And that's why Anna's arguing. And this is why you and me as an American citizen should be worried that the FBI is breaking rules and breaking down doors that are supposed to be protected by the Constitution to generate a tip for a crime. That is not okay. Even if you find the right guy, that procedure is unconstitutional. That's the argument that she really struggled with. Judge Hippler interpreted what she was arguing to see how ineffectual she was. Is how could the DNA we found on a knife sheath at a crime scene have a Fourth Amendment protection? Don't you remember Hippler saying that to her? She was stunned. She stumbled. She didn't know how to reply to that because the argument I just made was the argument she was trying to present to Hippler. The DNA itself, once the FBI touched it, they should never put their hands on it. Once they gave it to Idaho for a tip, Idaho was then supposed to get conclusive evidence to show that whoever that name was on that DNA, that you could conclusively show him at that residence that night. And that's not what Idaho did. Idaho made
So
up
how
a
do you
fucking
think
story.
they got there? How do you think they got that tip? How do you think? What was it a sister? Was
Oh
it
no.
like,
It was through
how did they even get there? Was it
IgG.
the Elantra?
No, it was through IgG from the swab from Othram.
No, I understand that, but like what made them even take it to IgG? What was their first thing that put him on their radar?
The first thing was Othram ran it, and they came up with four brothers. They then tried to pursue that lead, but at that point, the FBI said, "Give it to us. We'll do it." Probably thinking that if it was the four brothers or any relations, they could close the door on that. And what they did then is took the sample and they ran it through an IgG process.
I understand.
Okay. Now the IgG process, they say, led them to Koberger.
Yes, I get that.
Okay.
But what made them good? Was it because the guy at Washington State ran a license plate check for every white Hyundai Elantra?
No.
Was it
all
that?
that-
Like something had to spark it.
No. Listen, if I call you up and I say that I'm at the lab and this indicates it could be this suspect, his name is Joe Blow, then you're going to start looking for the activity. Is there a Joe Blow in my neighborhood? Oh, there is.
But what made them determine that the suspect was Joe Blow, aka Brian Koberger? That's
the
my
IgG
question.
work by the FBI. The IgG work by the FBI. I don't argue that the DNA that they're claiming is his isn't his. I wouldn't make that argument at all. I can't say that for sure. But I would question, like she did, once they had the DNA sample and they were going to run it into databases and use parts of the DNA they're not supposed to use, where's the warrant? And she did try to make that argument and failed. So they got his name from the FBI, the Idaho police. Then the Idaho police then went back and started looking through their notes of this investigation. And then they had cell phone traces. And then they had video that they looked at. And they'd already seen a white car. And they
So
thought,
the FBI got it from the sample on the sheath.
Yes.
And genetic testing. They didn't
Yeah.
they didn't reverse engineer it from a 2015 white Elantra.
No, they did not.
You know, a guy with bushy eyebrow or whatever
No.
the case may be. They took it specifically from the sample on the sheath and then couldn't get a direct hit, so they went the genetic route.
Have they
And then
turned over?
that tip, go ahead, explain it to her, please.
No, I was going to ask a question. Have they turned over the IgG to the defense yet?
Yeah, and that's why I'm able to come out and tell you that there were other hits found from Othram. I said that on one of those stupid forums on Facebook today because I was bored. And then people tried to come and explain to me the climb didn't happen at that time. It started at 2:00. And I said, look, I'm not that guy. I'm not the man you need to try to tell me your opinion or your fucking crazy thoughts on. All I'm telling you is go read the documents, and what I'm saying is a fact. Don't tell me Othram didn't find that.
If we're not supposed to know that the FBI was involved in that IgG, will the FBI be testifying to their work?
I don't know. They're not turning over. They don't have any documents to show the work they did. That's the other problem.
Yeah, remember?
See, what I'm trying to show the public is that the FBI did a wink and a nod, and they went and did things they weren't supposed to do to give a tip. That tip was a name. And if that name then showed that there was enough evidence to directly place him in the scene of the crime, then you were never supposed to know that you got his name from them.
Right.
Well, but my ultimate here's where I'm going with this, right? Do we have anything from the FBI themselves? Have they turned anything over from the FBI themselves, or is it all been from Idaho? Because at the end of the day, if the FBI isn't supposed to do it, and we're being told they did, but we're not being provided any proof that they did, how the fuck can we say that they even did?
She's got the proof. She's got the proof that that's how it happened. Yeah, I'm not making up a supposition based on just different scattered facts. What I'm telling you is that this is known to have worked this way. And that's why Ann keeps saying, nobody can see how they found my client. How did they come to Brian Koberger's name, Your Honor? I've got lawyers highly experienced, and they don't know how they originated his name. She was trying to get the defense to say, and this is another thing a lot of streamers miss. She was trying to get the prosecution to say it was the IGG, Your Honor. But in fact, there's a video of Judge and that crack smoking Santa Claus stoutly stating that the prosecution has made clear we did not identify Brian Koberger by his DNA. Now they're admitting they did. So Thompson lied to Judge. Judge was told in chambers, and he said it in open court. We already know that they didn't come to that. Isn't that right, Mr. Thompson? That they didn't come to his name through IGG. This was stated in open court. So for me, it's like, I don't know why she's not trying to bring charges up against that guy or get him kicked off or go to the bar. He clearly said in open court, IGG had nothing to do with Mr. Koberger's identification. That came after, he said.
Sarge, that's kind of what I was asking you, because they didn't do the IGG until like maybe 3 weeks to a month later, right? So in those first 3 weeks, is it possible that a sister may have called into the tip line because she was confused and because of White Elantra, because people were thought they were putting the pieces together, and that's what prompted them? Okay.
No.
Okay.
And the reason that can't be true is because there's nothing in the court documents and in opposition to the motions or the filings or the court testimony that indicates any other tip except for the FBI's tip.
So Bill Thompson,
you just said we can't trust them, but now you're going to trust what they didn't.
No, this is all documented. It's not trust. It's that it's documented that way.
So Bill Thompson said
something had to bring them to him, in my opinion.
Well, hold on, and I'm going to get there. So Bill Thompson said in open court that the IGG had nothing to do with how they got to Brian Koberger.
Correct.
Yeah.
Then then you can't trust anything that comes from Idaho at all, because if he's going to stand in open court, if he's going to stand in open court and say that, and then file a fucking document that completely contradicts that 100%, then you can't believe anything they said. But at the end of the day, I do believe that the most likely way they came to Brian Koberger was through the tip from WSU about the White Elantra belonging to Brian Koberger. That I absolutely believe happened, because it makes fucking sense. You're looking for a White Elantra. You have an officer driving around, spots a White Elantra and reports the White Elantra. They look up the owner and provide that information. I believe that absolutely.
Well, let me just say, though, this has been covered in court by Officer Payne.
Cletus. Love him.
Cletus. And he said that it wasn't, he had never heard the name, but he thinks that name was being tossed around, but he was excluded early in the investigation.
Right. But at the end of the day, how did they come to the name? I think that absolutely happened.
That's the cover Bill Thompson's going to hide behind. But that is not See, here's the problem is Ann was trying to show that statement by him shows you that they reverse engineered the whole case. They originally excluded the guy, and then later when they did the IGG, they all of a sudden now somewhere in that process they included longer years for a car, and then they got the IGG, and then they did everything in reverse. Then they did the phone stuff. Then they did.
But they had to have a starting place. They had to have a name or something to start with. Did they not?
No. Not
Why?
the name that they had to investigate.
The
only
DNA
time-
would have only brought them back to Brian's father.
no.
They had to have a starting place.
No, because that DNA said that this sample matches that sample to not exclude him as being the father of the perpetrator. So the father's DNA was used to say that whoever did this is his kid. Basically, that's what it said. Clue has a different opinion on that. She has an interesting one. Where is she?
Right here.
Go ahead. Remember we had that battle over this?
Yeah, that it could have been his dad, because they say, if you read the paperwork, I don't know if it's bad punctuation or what, they say
Right.
it's his dad.
Yeah, I know. I think it's bad punctuation as it goes throughout the entire document. But I could be wrong. You could be completely right on this. But let's go with the narrative that we have. And the narrative that we have is that DNA, Gray, indicated an offspring of the DNA that they're testing, not Brian Kohlberger. They had to go arrest Brian Kohlberger because he was the sibling of that guy.
Not
Well,
disputing that at all. Not disputing that at all.
I'm just going to say, I do find it, and still will always find it, a little interesting that it was Parents' Weekend the weekend before that. Or that weekend. Either one. I don't know. I don't remember.
And then how about did you see what she was doing with the Amazon searches? And how the police have misrepresented the searches? That their dates and the timelines of these searches have nothing to do with the crime? And then, in fact, they may not even have been searches at all. They may have been the AI of Amazon recommending you to go look at this. So let's say you type in hunting tent, right? It would give you this. Other people that bought this tent may also have bought. It'll show you a lantern. It'll show you binoculars. It'll show you a knife. It'll show you. And what she's saying is that they didn't account for any of that. And the fact that it was a family account that anybody could have ordered or clicked on that, and the entire family, they didn't account for that either. They simply took the Amazon data and tried to frame it in a way to show Kohlberger did it. Whatever it is they found, if they found anything at all. Right? Because I don't think they found a purchase of a knife.
The reason I keep asking about is there documentation from the FBI themselves is simply this, right? We know that other case where the same Idaho State Police investigator was involved and fucked that case up by fabricating shit is involved in this one. And if we don't have anything from the actual FBI backing up the claims that are being made, I don't give a fuck about Autism. I'm talking about if there's nothing documented from the FBI and they don't testify, why is it not very easy to draw the connection between, draw this line right here? They get a name of a guy that owns a white Elantra. They get toward the end of December and they have absolutely fucking nothing except a list of names and a list of Elantras. And they picked up one fucking person that there's no relation to, nobody fucking knows, and that they could probably get away with fucking blaming. And they name his ass and say here. And then they say, well, what do we do about covering for the fucking DNA? Well, the motherfucker that we tried to get it from wouldn't give it to us, and we were too goddamn sorry to go get a search warrant for it. So let's just pin it on him and say the FBI told us to. Because
let me just say this too, though.
Testify.
We don't know who they surreptitiously got a cigarette butt from. That may have, in fact, been one of the four brothers. So let's give them a little credit on some of the things we do know, but we don't know.
So let me just understand, because I'm the I'm the slower one on the panel, although I'm not very slow. But so you're saying that the DNA was collected, they came up with this family tree of sorts, and out of that family tree of people, one of them had a white Elantra who also happened to be within a certain mile from the state of Idaho, being the Washington University, and that's how they got to Kohlberger. You don't think that they had his name first and they reverse engineered it to fit him?
I do believe that. I think that, but what I think we differ on is
Sergeant,
that they were not investigating Brian Kohlberger before the DNA. There was no investigation into him at all. That's what Brett Payne has told us.
I think the DNA is bullshit. I'm literally sitting here right now thinking that the DNA and the IgG and all of that may absolutely be 100% fabricated fucking lie. because there's nothing to fucking prove it, because you have a disconnect between the organization that allegedly did the work and the fucking court itself. They're not providing anything that actually proves they did anything. That's a
Right.
fucking problem for me.
Well, in the one document, here's what I said before, and they proved it. I said that taking an unknown sample is like trying to catch a particular fish in the ocean. You're going to get a lot of hits. It ain't going to be a direct hit to somebody, because we share 99.9% of the DNA. Even me and you hillbillies down there, believe it or not. I don't know how that could be possible, but it is.
I'll give
So-
you
They
another.
could have gotten a direct sample. He was a TA. He had an office with a handle and a doorknob that he
They didn't.
you
They
know,
didn't collect fuck all.
operated every day.
They didn't do
Instead,
any
they
of
went to
this.
Pennsylvania and searched through trash.
They didn't do any of this, and here's evidence I can provide you that proves what I'm saying may actually be fucking true. We know they got the results for the IgG on the 29th of December because of the invoice that was provided to Idaho. Why the
Right.
fuck would a company contracted with the FBI invoice Idaho?
I think they said they got it on the 28th and flew it in or something like that. And then they were invoiced on the 29th. I think that's the chain of events, and they arrested him on the 30th.
But if the
I
FBI did
understand.
the fucking work, why would Idaho be the one getting invoiced by a company contracted with the FBI is my point. Do you see what I'm saying? That makes no fucking sense. So the
I see what you're
FBI,
saying.
the FBI, that's evidence to support what I'm saying, that the FBI has no goddamn involvement in this whatsoever. And they're making that shit up.
All right. So now I don't know how you know that belonged to a female, just Amber, but if you know why or what evidence you have to show that cigarette butt was a female.
Oh, okay, so Thomas just corrected me. That's right. I'm thinking of that backwards. Othram has an
What
exclusive
the hell
contract.
cigarette butt are we talking about?
Right.
Not the FBI. Okay, that's my bad.
Yeah, there's weirdos like me that actually have got all this stuff in their head, or they got documents in front of them. There was the statement by the police. They're trying to show how big and bad they are, where they had a suspect, and to obtain DNA, they surreptitiously obtained a cigarette butt that he discarded, and they excluded him from the crime. Okay, so that's in the legal documents. The
Yeah,
police have
I'm
made
telling you,
that
their
statement.
age group does not smoke cigarettes. They vape. Just saying.
that's not true. Here's a picture of David smoking a cigarette.
David Lopes.
Some of these people smoke cigarettes.
Well, that's fair, but I'd never heard that before. They thought that it was Koberger's cigarette, and it turned out to be a female. Is that what I'm
No,
understanding?
No.
About
Somebody
Coburn.
said that it was a female, and I don't know how they're coming to that conclusion. I don't believe that was told to us.
It
We
wasn't.
were told that it was a cigarette butt from a suspect that they surreptitiously collected. They didn't say male or female, to
right.
my knowledge. So I don't know how she's saying that came. That's why I'm asking her, where's that information, just Amber? Because if that's true, we want to see it somewhere to show that it's true, right? Because that then adds something to the narrative on that particular topic. But I can't claim to solve crime with that, unfortunately. Cletus? Haven't done one of them tonight. What a mess.
I don't know.
Man.
I'm really fucking. I don't know. I guess taking a year away from this and coming back in a mad fucking rush is just making it really fucking clear to me how, I guess, coming out of the weeds and then looking at it from a 30,000 foot view kind of makes it pretty clear to me how you can fairly draw the conclusion that they picked the easiest fucking target to name in this because they needed to, and then built the case backwards. And the fact that they showed Dylan his picture after she'd already said she couldn't fucking identify him, they show her again after they arrest him, kind of tells me what I need to know. You didn't have anything. Right. You picked a fucking guy. You hoped and prayed you could fucking nail to the wall for it, and you can't.
And they had blood on gloves, and they couldn't identify the owner of the blood.
Well,
that's
another thing.
Disturbing.
I don't know that they fucking tried.
I don't think they did either.
Well, they tried to know that it was a male, unknown male. They did that on the DNA that they did test.
I mean, to be fair, the DNA on the sheath was an unknown male.
Right.
Miss Q, the DNA on the metal snap, if that metal is brass, is typical for a knife, it would never last 36 hours. Just so you know. Go look up brass and DNA. If it was stainless steel, it could last for years. And those are the only two materials that I know of, after doing some research, that they use on button snaps on knives. It's either stainless, brass, or a combination of the two, which wouldn't be that smart, but it's one or the other. So on
Unless
brass, it might last 4 hours on brass, but brass, I forget the word, but it breaks down the nucleonic structure of DNA and destroys it. It's kind of like copper. That's why you have copper pipes for your plumbing, because you can't get any growth. None of these bacterias and these microbes, they will not stick to copper. It kills them. Brass does the exact same thing to DNA that copper does, say, to algae. So,
Sergeant, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Constitutional stuff aside, legal and law stuff aside, and I know this is going to be hard for you, but your gut instinct, because I don't think he could be convicted. If I were on a jury, I could not convict him. Do you think he was involved?
no, I can't
I
conclude that
stumped you.
because none of the evidence points into that crime. That's what I mean. I'm not saying he's innocent, though. There's
Okay.
a difference between me saying he's innocent or he's guilty. And look, if the picture of the vehicle was clear, if they had evidence placing him in that neighborhood, even, or something more conclusive about his travels that were impeachable, now you've got a case to argue. And they don't have anything like that. They have everything but that. There's not one single piece of what you would need to build the case. Here's the gun.
But I
Your
was just
fingerprints
asking
are
you
on
as
it.
you as a person, you as a man. I said leave the constitutional legal stuff out of it in your gut. Like what do you because
No, I won't do
personally
that
I
because
don't
I
feel like
can't know.
like same with Bethany. I don't feel like they were the actual knife wielders or anything like that. But I feel like they either knew what was gonna go down or they were involved as a lookout or a watchdog, something in what was going to go down. I do not feel that either of them were the actual murderers, so to speak. But I mean, I got to think that they kind of knew something.
I don't know what they could know. I mean, Thomas did use the correct terminology that I was stumbling with. Thank you, Thomas. The copper and nickel content, the degradation due to the copper and nickel content, which destroys the ionic bonds of DNA. That Thomas is a smart mother hucker. And I was trying to explain what it does without actually knowing the exact term. So we have to thank Thomas there.
Thanks, Thomas. I was going to go human, but thank you. I'm just kidding.
Regardless of the gut instinct with it, right? If you look at what those text messages and what the 911 call log says and what we know Dylan's statements have been within the first couple of days, I 100% believe that they would have to clear themselves with me before I would move on to anybody else unless I had reason to suspect anybody else.
It's totally
And,
suspicious. I'm with
well,
you.
and I mean that's my thing, right? Is I don't know if I don't understand how they just draw all of a sudden one day wake up and it's like, okay, let's fucking arrest this guy. I don't understand that when I don't know what they did to clear the two most probable people involved.
Yep.
Especially when, like Sarge is saying, the story and the statements make you appear to be fucking guilty of something.
Plus, you have to consider that whoever went in to kill probably did not go in with the intention to kill 4 people. It was probably a reactive thing. They probably got caught and panicked, and so why were those 2 saved or salvaged? Like,
Well, that's my fucking problem right there. Fuck the bullshit. What everybody needs to be sitting here debating about and wondering about is how the fuck
tell it,
there's
Clue.
on the goddamn handrail going down to the first floor and that little girl didn't die. Sorry. Not sorry.
I agree, my girl.
When she said, I heard somebody say, I'm here to help, I believe that statement was directed to her. And that's when she went downstairs. That's when she started texting fucking Bethany. That's my opinion. I could be completely wrong. But the fact that she even had said that, they claim that she said that in the PCA, that's a statement. I'm here to help. And you're not helping dead people, right?
But
You look right
people,
at me, but he
the
didn't attack
absolute
me.
chaos of that situation with the dog barking and people screaming, like that house was poorly put together. It was a slumlord's house. They put slapped addition after addition. Sarge, you know this. You're in construction. It was not soundproof, well, insulated. They had to hear every movement in that house. So picture a dog barking, females screaming their heads off, Ethan is screaming like and you can tell by the text messages that came out recently. They heard something was going down, and they still waited 8 fucking hours to call the cops.
Well, I got a question.
Survived.
Clue, do you know when you walk up the staircase to the 3rd floor, whose bedroom is the closest to you? Is it going to be Maddie where the offense took place, or would it have been Kaylee's old room?
It would have been Maddie.
Maddie.
Oh,
Because when you get to
it
the
was
top
Maddie.
of the steps, her room is right there on the right.
Yep.
No,
Maddie,
no.
Kaylee is right there on the left. You literally almost walk into her room. It's Kaylee.
Yeah, you're right. It is Kaylee.
They said when the police arrived the next day, the doors were all open. The dog was in the room by himself, nothing on him, no evidence on the dog. His master is
wait. The dog, I knew the dog was in a room by itself. I never knew that the door was open. So what kept
when the police
was
arrived,
he tied
the door
up?
was open. No, he was sitting on the bed.
Let him finish, Gray. Go ahead. Sarge.
Sorry.
What?
Sorry. That was just shocking to me.
The dog was found in Kaylee's old bedroom on the bed with the door open. No, there was no blood or anything on the dog. Nothing. The dog was completely clean.
Then that tells me that the dog was probably calm and not barking.
No, the dog did bark. It's on recording. The dog barked from 5:25 a.m. for, I think, 25 minutes.
What?
After the crime, the dog started barking. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that barking was during the time the dog was being cleaned.
But wait a minute, 5:25 or 4:25?
4:25 on. I'm sorry. After the supposed crime, the dog goes crazy, but there's nothing hiding her hair of the dog other than Dylan saying she might have heard Kaylee play with it. But there's no argument that during the crime that the dog was going nuts. None at all. The dog going nuts had happened after the crime.
And
when the police arrived, the dog was, they walked upstairs, Kaylee's bedroom door was open, and the dog was laying on Kaylee's bed quiet. Is that?
Yeah, and the dog barking occurred after the crime was over.
Yeah, because the dog knew the person doing the crime.
I think the dog was barking because it was being cleaned. It didn't know the person doing it or didn't want to be. You know, this is what I'm saying. There's too much of an inside job situation going on here. The whole sequence of events and the stories that they've released to us from the people that are supposed to be victims just can't, in my mind, exclude them as having some knowledge or involvement, direct or indirect or direct.
I found the time frame of the dogs, but that's why I keep honing in specifically on 4:25. Are you sure that it was 4:25?
And said this specifically in court. The dog started barking and continued for 25 minutes after the supposed time of the crime occurred.
Okay, so here's my point, right? They released the text message communication between Dylan and Bethany. Dylan, that stops right before 4:25.
Yes. And she's told to run down to the room downstairs where we find blood on a railing. Huh. Yeah, exactly. And then the dog starts going nuts. Why didn't it go nuts during the onslaught? How about the smelling of blood? I mean, you know, come on. Why do you think they use dogs to try to find poor little Sebastian?
And this dog barking, the time on that dog barking came from, I'm assuming, the camera next door.
Yes. Yes.
And someone said they heard the dog. It sounded like the dog was barking from outside in the chat last night. I don't know how they got that or whatever.
He could have been on Kaylee's balcony.
But if we took, let's do this, folks, and I think we can agree on this. Let's take out, none of the DNA samples could be tested. None of them. Okay? and we're left with a crime scene with a knife sheath, as alleged, and then all of the stories and circumstances around that. Okay? How is it you couldn't consider the victims in the home to be perpetrators? And they had, let's be clear, they had well more than a month to make this decision, to conclude that this, and I just don't understand how this person was relied upon as a witness, not as a perpetrator or a person that had prior or current knowledge of what happened in that house and knew. Do you know what I mean? They never spent any time investigating these two girls. That's clear now. It's not written anywhere, but it's clear in the spacing of the interviews, what was obtained during the interview with Dylan. There's nothing in any of these interviews that suggests they did anything to consider her anything except a witness, which means they got on TV and lied. Are the survivors, are they victims? Are they witnesses? Or we're not, or are they suspects? And he says, we're not excluding anybody as a suspect, but they then instantly did do that for Dylan. They did not consider her a suspect, and they did nothing in the way of what we're doing here. And if we all sat in the room and didn't know about this crime and were given the data that we now could get our hands on, and I support Cletus. He says he's been away a year and he's seeing this shit and he's like, whoa.
Me
right,
too.
Cletus?
Yeah, I mean,
No, I mean, he's as close to a non-observer as we got.
No,
Well,
I've been away for a year too.
we've been
That's all.
we got so far into the weeds with this thing, right? And I mean, I think we had sifted through everything and we're down to the bare bone facts of the situation and sort of the implications. And over the past year, I guess all of the implications were gone and just the facts were left in my mind. And now just having a bum rush of new facts make those implications even fucking stronger, but that also clears up some things. And I'm sitting here looking at this going, I see a clear fucking line from they had a name, they had nothing, and they decided he was going to be the fucking guy, and possibly didn't even have the FBI run the fucking genetic genealogy at all. Because
Right.
I have a really hard fucking time understanding how you fucking present it, how you claim it, how you speak about it, but you will not produce one fucking record of it. And your excuse is, well, they destroyed it. Get the fuck out of here with that.
Well, you know what else is terrible? And the motion, Ann made this argument, and I think she'll win, is that there's no such thing as touch DNA. That's a misnomer. That does not apply to what they found. It's transfer DNA. It's dead skin cells that you shed 5 billion of a day. We all look like fucking Pigpen from Charlie Brown. If you could see us, each of us walk around microscopically. And transfer DNA means that it can be transferred not just by you, by it shedding off of you, but it landing on objects or other people that then pick them up and touch somebody else. That somebody else could carry it somewhere else. This is the clown show of DNA. And you got all these jerk-offs on the internet that think, oh, they got his DNA. That's it. Because they're idiots. They don't think. Just a bunch of empty-headed fucking idiots that when the media tells them something, or a policeman or somebody that sucks the ass of the media, even though they deemed and humiliated the drunk turkey guy, he's still licking the ass and trying to get his face known to the media. He's an idiot. And he'll push these things without getting people. You've got to learn how to think. And they take shortcuts. They rename things.
Can we think about this for a minute? Because my mind's blown about the DNA too, but my mind has really been blown in the past 3 minutes about Murphy. And supposedly the front door was open. So rather than, after all of this happened and he barked for 25 minutes or whatever, rather than run out the open front door,
you don't know it's open.
Murphy laid on the bed like, hey,
we don't have
everything's
proof
cool.
that door was
I'm
open.
not going to bark. Everything's fine. I'm just going to hang out
But
here on my bed.
Wait, Ray. There's no evidence that front door was open. None.
True, but it's a
But
dog.
that's what I'm saying.
And
We don't want to get into what could or should have happened on something we can't verify.
that's fair, Sergeant. But do you have pets? I know you get peanuts
Right,
for
but
your
here's the
squirrels
worst
in the
thing.
summer.
Listen,
But do you have
the
pets?
most
Do you have
listen,
dogs?
Great. The fact that his door and the victim's door were both open on the second floor, and he didn't go in there or didn't pick up any of the massive amounts of blood that we were told.
Do we
it was
know
a
that,
crime.
Sergeant?
Yeah, we do know that. Ann told us this in court. So here's a dog that's the owner's been knifed to death in a room across the hall or diagonal from it. Its door is open, and the victim's door, his master's door, is open. When the police say this, when they went upstairs, both doors were open. The dog was sitting on the bed.
Let me
He
ask
was
you a
just hanging
question.
out on the bed. All that smell and all
I
that,
don't care. I know, great.
all that dog instinct just was not there. He just laid on the bed like it was a normal day. I'm not buying that. I'm sorry. I've had
So
dogs my whole life. I'm not buying it.
Let me ask this question. So you said we know that because of what Ann said in court, right? Sarge?
Right. It was, I think it was a question. It was in the documents themselves, or was in a hearing. Could he be, obviously it can only be either or. And that the policeman that initially went up the stairs found both of the bedroom doors. As a matter of fact, all the bedroom doors were open, even Xana's.
Okay. All right. Because I was going to say, just because she said it in court doesn't make it true. Look at Bill Thompson. And I was going to ask this while ago too. I don't know if I ever got to it, but is it legal for the prosecution to lie in a fucking court of law?
No.
Then I don't know how the fuck they can this can continue, because if Bill Thompson stated in an open court that the IGG had nothing to do with that they had his name before the IGG, how the fuck they can file that motion that I read tonight that absolutely 180-degree turns around from that?
Right. Listen, I'm going to say this, and I don't care what people are politically, but they did this to Donald J. Trump. They not only convicted him of some kind of sexual allegation, but it was an allegation that arises from an incident that happened long prior to the statute of limitations. The crime, it was a misdemeanor. It wasn't even something it'd be like, if I rob your house of $1 million and 7 years goes by, I can then take that money and pay the income tax on it and keep it because of the statute of limitations. They turned the statute of limitations, the legislator extended it just for Donald Trump's case. And then they tried to turn it into a felony, and they're trying to award this woman millions and millions of dollars on a claim that he didn't do anything sexual to her. He touched her breast, is what she's saying. That's what she thinks. That's what she remembers. And I can't remember exactly where it was or what time it was. And that guy got convicted. This is your court system in America. This isn't just the Idaho floor. This isn't just Delphi. This isn't just Karen Reed. Your agencies around the country have become so lackadaisical and so willing to lie and make up stories because we all have this need to be right, which I get accused of. And sadly, most of the fucking time, I am.
I don't think anybody disputes that, Sergeant. I think you make valid points with all of that. I think when it comes to true crime and trying to figure out, theories or things that could have possibly happened, you have to consider other things. You can't just be as black and white as which I brought this up 20 minutes ago, as the Constitution and legal started. You have to consider other factors into it if you're trying to deduce, what happened. If you're trying to figure out if someone's guilty or innocent, yes, then it has to be law driven and constitutional.
I don't think that
if you're theorizing on a podcast, you have to bring in other things, and it's just not logical.
Yeah, but I don't. That's
for some of the things that you disagreed with tonight. It's just not
logical because it is logical because. Come on, listen. Let me finish. You can extrapolate and assume whatever you want, but it can't be part of the story. Because we have no evidence to support what you're saying. So
you made it part of the story. I had no idea that Murphy was laying on a bed with the door wide open with free reign of the house. You told it. You said it. I have never heard that before. That's why I've been shocked.
Great. But then you turned it into him not running out the open front door. And I'm telling you, there's no proof of an open front door. Therefore, we're not going to discuss the dog running out of the house. I don't want to get into the intricacies of what a normal dog would do. We're all quite aware. I think we've all either owned a dog or some pet, and we know that murdering of the owner of the dog would drive the dog nuts. I get it. Run around the house, bang around the house, jump in the bedroom. How could all these doors be open? It sounds impossible, right? I agree with you. But that's all we know, right? But to add potentials of what the dog should have done or could have done or would have done doesn't help because we have no proof of it. All we know is the doors were open. The dog was clean, which is that suspicious? as the mighty as the water in the ocean is deep. That's suspicious, big time. We can agree on that.
I can tell you an
Yes.
explanation that
And-
makes sense for me as to how that happens. And so, if the audio recording, do we know that the analysis indicates that the dog barking was coming from outside the home based on volume or something, or is that just an assumption or a rumor?
I don't know anything about that. I know it was said, but I never heard any proof to back it up.
Because I was going to say, if that's actually documented somewhere that they know the dog was outside, it would be reasonable to believe that the dog was left outside up until the point where they start calling people. And the reason that the dog was laying in a room that it's familiar with an open door was because the motherfucker had been freezing outside for hours on end and was staying warm.
Yes,
That's true.
I agree with
I
that.
agree. Great.
But
I just want to let
I
you
don't
know.
mean
I
to cut you
agree
off.
that
Look, I'm on a drop. I've
also,
been tethered to my phone for over an hour. Thank you, Sergeant. I think you're the best. I love you, Cletus. I think you guys are. I appreciate you allowing me up here to voice my opinion, and I love.
I had to hang up on somebody tonight, Cletus. It just wasn't you. Holy shit, he didn't do that. Where's Clue? Clue, what do you say to that, Clue?
She said, "You're such a dick."
Yeah, I know. Like I said earlier,
know.
when I run, it drags behind me. I hate running.
I get what she's saying and all, right? Like a dog wouldn't
Right.
do that, blah blah. But this is a fucking frat or sorority house party dog. Like, you see the cops come to the door in that one video. That dog don't give zero fucks about them motherfuckers being there. There's music banging. That dog is not losing his mind. Loud noise in that house is not something that is out of the fucking ordinary.
No, but the thing that bothers me with it, right, that I would need somebody to be able to explain is the dog's not barking prior to the crime being over. The dog doesn't, you don't have audio of the dog barking until the fucking text messages stop, which is when Bethany says, run down or run down here, whatever she says. You have no barking prior to that on audio.
Right.
Well, but you have one person, and I suspect two, based on the way the text messages read, that are aware there's something uncommon, and if they had nothing to do with it or no direct knowledge of what's happening, it's loud. They hear shit.
Mm-hmm.
How the fuck is it that this entire crime goes down and then the dog barks? That's where I have a fucking issue.
Yeah, and I got to side with Gray on that aspect. That dog, if those doors were open all night and that dog was in the house as they're portraying it to be, for it to be spit shiny clean with no evidence of any interaction with its owner that's slaughtered across the hall, or the dog isn't running up and down, or I just don't know how any dog would not respond to that in a way that would be dog-like.
Well, it would.
I mean,
if you put his ass outside in the fucking cold while you clean up the fucking house, he's gonna bark like a motherfucker, and you're gonna hear it on a camera that's 100 feet away.
Yeah.
And when he comes back in the morning, he's gonna lay in the fucking bed where it's warm because his ass is freezing. He don't give a fuck about anything except surviving at that point.
Mm-hmm. It's possible. I don't know that it was that bone chilling for a dog of that type to be freezing. Right. And look, I think the dog is interesting in the aspect that the officer went into a home where all the doors were open. And these idiots are calling the police for fucking someone's unconscious.
I don't think this person has ever followed this case.
Well,
so Jack DeCour did not have Murphy.
No, he did not. Jack DeCour got Murphy after the crime.
Right.
There's no real dispute. It was just that I try to stay. I don't mind making assumptions within the evidence that we have available to us, like the assumptions I'm making with Dylan and the survivors of this crime. And their presence is not questionable. It's absolute. The words spoken by Dylan are absolute words now that we've read them in transcripts from her interviews. And they're so scrambled and fucked up that one has to consider strongly the involvement of the particular roommates, singular or combined, as you suggest, Cletus. I agree with that. There's no reason to exclude Bethany.
Well, but at the end of the day, I think based on what we've seen documented, it is a fair statement to say, at a minimum, the cops took some liberties with the statements that Dylan made, right? At a minimum, that occurred. At a minimum, Bill Thompson has lied in the court. At a fucking minimum, those two things are absolutely fucking true. What that implicates with Dylan or Bethany or Brian is second to that. But at a fucking minimum, it is now proven both of those things are true. How the fuck this can even proceed is beyond me.
I don't get it either. You know, I think my biggest hang up on this case is trying to get people to understand. Go right back to the beginning with probable cause. How is it all the things that are being shown to us in the hearings or in these motions completely contradict the probable cause warrant? That should really disturb American people. You don't live in Europe or Canada or Mexico. You live here. Probable cause is that the likelihood that this person committed the crime. And an indictment from a grand jury, we've all bought the story that a ham sandwich can be indicted, and when it happens, we laugh. That's not being an American. You're not supposed to let this shit get by, folks. You're not supposed to be in here deciding if he's guilty or innocent. You're supposed to be in anything to do with true crime. You're supposed to analyze the people that represent you, to bring the perpetrators to your family, your friends, and your neighbors to justice. That's the best you can do. That's being an American. But getting in here and arguing, like you see on all these other streams, of innocence or guilt is a futile, it's a programmed response. You've been brainwashed to view this that way. But you're ignoring the cruciality of where you live and who you are. You're an American citizen, and that Constitution doesn't give you any privileges at all. That Constitution prevents the government from interfering with your freedom. And when they go to a probable cause court and they write a warrant of 19 pages and not a single fucking accusation in that warrant is a fact, and they left the DNA out of this warrant, let's be clear. Not anything in that warrant is a verifiable fact, and even your wildest imagination, that should not be acceptable to the American public. It isn't a matter of whether he did it or not. Your government is committing fucking crimes by violating the limits placed upon them in the Constitution. That's what you should be paying attention to. Be an American. Think like an American. You're never going to solve this crime by guessing. JD had the dog. This one had the dog. This door was open. The grub truck, the reflections off the fucking moon. You know what I'm saying? You're never going to solve the crime that way. That's not what we should be focused on. Right? Look at people complaining about Sebastian. Go ahead.
We need to be focused on getting Dylan to admit what the fuck she did, in my opinion. But y'all know how I feel. I'm just going to sit over here. And
no, I don't disagree with that. Why wasn't she ran through the fucking gamut? I'd have ran everybody on the property through that.
To be fair, it's, in my opinion, the blonde hair, blue-eyed effect. It doesn't just apply to missing kids, right? It's the same reason, and God knows, you might have half your audience vacate right now, but fuck them. The same reason that Gabby Petito was not arrested in, where the fuck were they?
Utah.
In Utah. She left marks on that boy, told the cops that she was hitting him, and the cop literally said, I'm staring at a 5-foot-something, 100-pound, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl. I don't want her to go to jail.
Yep.
It's the same principle right here. Period.
Yep. Same thing with Karen Reed.
If that would have been a man and Gabby Petito would have had marks, if Gabby would have had marks on her from Brian, he absolutely would have gone to jail. Instead, what do? They just separate him, and then they send him to a hotel, tell him not to meet back up, which of course they do. And again, had they taken her to jail, she might be here today. But no, it was, I'm looking at a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl. I don't want her to sit in jail. Same thing when they show up here. She's distraught. She's upset, etc., right? And I mean, guess what? It doesn't mean that she is necessarily innocent. I'm sorry.
No, I don't know that she's guilty, but I do assess the information they've provided us. And I don't think anybody that honestly sat down and read this case from beginning to end would make the conclusion that Brian Koberger has to be the perpetrator. in light of the facts that were shown, that contradict the arguments they used to make the arrest, that right then and there, you need to say stop, and explain yourself. How could that be? How do you prove that to be his car? Show me how you make that conclusion.
Well, and I mean,
they can't.
And again, they've gone on for over 2 fucking years now with this and haven't been truly fucking checked yet. But again, if it's truly illegal for Bill Thompson to sit in open court and blatantly fucking lie, and then he's documented a contradiction to that lie, and we know that the cops absolutely took liberties with her statements, and that's documented. I don't know how it even fucking matters what we think about who did it or who didn't fucking do it. This shit needs to stop now.
And same thing with the missing Sebastian. Until you find him, everything is a guess. Unless there's something out there that none of us know about, and that's a real thing in the case. But in this case, where people really can't even make that argument anymore, Cletus. Well, there's stuff we don't know. Well, that doesn't look like it. They're opening up. He's unsealing everything. You're getting this big document dump every day. What has been in the document dump that shows you Kohlberger was in the home during the time of the crime as alleged by the police? And that's what irritates me. I just need one piece of evidence that puts him in the home. Then I don't doubt the DNA's presence, but I doubt that presence indicates that he was in the home. It by itself can't make that statement, you know?
But at the end of the day, here's where I stand with that. I don't need any of that, because at the end of the day, this is not my family, and that's suffering through this, right? The outcome of who gets convicted, if they're truly guilty, has no direct impact on me. But what does have an impact on me is the fact that the government in this situation has abso-fucking-lutely lied in a court of fucking law and has taken liberties with witness statements and used it to build a probable cause affidavit. I give a fuck completely about the outcome of that. That is bullshit, and they do not need to stand for it in the state of Idaho. That's crazy.
You know, and I said this going back to July of 2023, and everybody was all fucked up. I even pointed out that knife sheath had DNA on it, and that's when I had that falling out with that Jewels of all trades. She's calling me Dot. This nasty lying, making up stories, changing her story, piece of shit woman. Because I said that the police indicated 3 locations on the sheet that they searched. And then, he's making that up. That was in legal documents that the police released. And now we find out, at the very minimum, there's blood on the back of the knife sheath, and there's transfer DNA on the button swab. And according to what I either heard or read, they swabbed the living shit out of that, except the top button. Imagine this. The button where you would use your finger to close the sheath, they didn't test that for DNA. Nope. They put fingerprint powder all over it and found nothing, or whatever they found was not worth anything, and now you can't even go back and test the button for DNA. The top of the button. How ridiculous is that? Why couldn't you have swabbed that button for DNA? You're swabbing what apparently is a brass buckle or a button. Why wouldn't you swab the enamel-coated surface on the top of the button, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. It's just, I don't know who, Sarge, you aren't the only one that hates her now. No, I don't hate her. I don't like to be disrespected on something that was clearly written by the police, and then I'm tore down as somebody making stories up. And I don't think anybody that knows me can ever say that. Do I get things wrong occasionally? What say you? Cletus!
Oh, I know who Suze is referring to, and that's not. He's talking about Jules, true crime, not
Jewels of all trades. I think.
Yeah, not allegedly innocent Jules.
No,
that's a different one altogether.
I buzz through every Idaho 4 thing that comes up on the screen. I buzz through people's streams. I buzz through. What's that guy with the nose rings? I buzz through.
Is he still streaming?
Yeah.
What was his name?
Something
He's
about an ad or no. What's his name? A.R. Hayes. Yeah.
Guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I buzz through these people's streams. I do harsh. I do a bunch of people. I even buzz through. I can't take it, but I try to buzz through that fucking drunk turkey show, and I just have a real. That guy was so humiliated. The thing about him that annoys me is, how could you not know the mainstream media is a is a louse. And he went on there. He originally had the idea that Koberger may not be the right suspect, but after he got the news lambasted him and made fun of him and that fat guy, the next streams was all about Koberger's guilty. It's like, what the fuck, bro? You let them slap you around like that, and they to the point where you're going to change up your point of view so you can get what coffin doffer on your stream. Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
I call her
genius.
Jennifer Cum Dumpster.
That's what we were talking about earlier. She was playing the court TV thing that they put out last night about this DNA and all the shit, the current shit with the Koberger thing, and all of a sudden, here up on the screen comes Chris McDonough, and I'm like, fuck no, instantly, right? I'm like, hell no, I don't give a fuck what he's got to say. And it's
right
over the past year, seeing a lot of these people that come out here and they stand on credentials but say fucking nothing.
Right. That's the media.
And it's like, and you look at Jennifer Coffindaffer, you look at Chris McDonough, you look at all these fucking people that are doctor, FBI, fucking whatever you were at one point. At the end of the day, you're a fucking YouTuber. That's what
I'm
you
a YouTuber too.
Fuck. Right. I give a fuck what you did once upon a time in your career. What the fuck are you saying? What are you contributing to the conversation? And does it make any sense, or are you a narrative pusher, somebody paid or used to get fucking attention because of your name? Get the fuck out of here.
There's this guy Thomas in here. Look, this guy Thomas is smart as a motherfucker, right? Uh-huh. But he doesn't sit here and tell you his qualifications when he answers something. And then, in other words, when somebody first lays out their who they are and what they are and what their history is, and they're trying to sell you on what I think you should think. They're going to try to tell you what to think. I'm in contradiction to that. I don't want you to agree with me at all. Read the information, come to your own conclusions. Don't add anything or invent anything, but ask yourself, does the PCA match the fucking things that we're seeing now? And the answer is clearly no. And so it's in that way that you're supposed to look at the evidence, not try to guess who did it and look at, blown up pixelated images that are reflected off car mirrors, or stories that like that woman Dot and the WSU mom. All of these people are telling you all these stories. They found Ethan first. They tell you you don't have any of that. Means nothing until you read the actual documents. That's where the whole case is, in those documents. Even if we all agree that this is an illegitimate case and he was framed, let's say we all agreed with that, right? It doesn't matter. If it shows itself to be that way, so be it. If it shows Brian Koberger committed the crime, so be it. Stop letting people think for you. And that's what the drunk turkeys are doing. And a lot of these streamers, they're copying what the media does. And the media's job isn't to inform you, it's to tell you what to think about something. Hate President Trump, he's a racist. They're telling you what to think about a man that's done more good for the black community than any president, and in his private life. Whitney Houston. The list of celebrities this guy's helped on problems that nobody knew about is unimaginable. And the amount of them that were black has got to be upwards of 30 people before he ever ran for president. Yet how many people bought into the narrative? This is what you're supposed to think about Trump. He's a racist. And then you stop. You don't think. You just accept that. Brian Koberger did it. There's DNA on the sheath. You just accept that because you're being told what to think. And yet you run around your whole life thinking you're thinking. That's why the screen says there's 5.63 billion morons on social media. None of you know how to think. There's exceptions. A lot of you in here. Clue thinks. Cletus thinks. And you try to come to a fair assessment of the information. But if the information doesn't lay the facts out in a straight line, and you got to jump through hoops and you got to believe, then the information is bullshit.
What's wrong?
Nothing. I'm remembering why I got so fucking just over this goddamn case. It's fucked, right? And I can tell already I'm going to be quickly fucking over it again, because at the end of the day, I would venture to guess that when I go through the documents I haven't gone through, all I'm going to find is more fucking proof of what I already fucking see. that you may have the right guy, but you fucking absolutely framed him. For all we know, he could be the fucking guy that did it, but they did not fucking investigate this case and build a case against him. They fucking planned one quickly and fucked it all up.
I'll go. Listen, Cletus, I agree with that 1,000%. If they were willing to go into databases they didn't belong through third parties to come up with his name, then I completely agree that they'll do anything to get a conviction here. And that's the problem with our justice system in a nutshell. They want the numbers. They want the conviction. They want the glory. They want the promotion. They want to be governor. They want to be mayor. That's the sickness that's permeated America. And it's all over the place. Idaho, Washington, New York, Chicago, Miami, Dallas. It's all over the country. Tennessee, what's your capital there? I don't even know. Nashville, right. They say they play music down there. You probably got as many idiot cops out there because they were ill-trained. They're probably brilliant people. But, when you're trained by people to investigate crimes like this, and that's the training you're going to get, that cycle never ends. That's why I agree with Black Lives Matter. The corruption is systemic within the system. Doesn't mean a cop stole an apple. Doesn't mean a cop is these guys may not even think that they framed Brian Kohlberger. They're patting themselves on the back. They think they did a great job. They don't know any better. I don't know how they could be that stupid, but maybe they're on social media too. What say you, Cletus?
Why not? All the other fucking ex-law enforcement professionals are.
Jesus, how does that guy's mother survive a grandfather clock fucking tipping over on her?
Right.
I heard he's back.
He hangs out with 12 gauge.
Yeah, so does Coffin Dapper.
Mm-hmm. Coffin Dapper. Cum dumpster.
Oh, I couldn't fucking that. I saw a fucking stream and it was like, come hang out with Coffin Dapper, and I'm like, you're fucking kidding me, right? And I put
that was Daniel. That was the drunk turkey?
No, 12 gauge.
Did he have her there, or was it just a video of her?
No, she was up on his panel. I'm like, no shit. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I'd like to debate her.
I wouldn't. I got nothing. I got no fucking interest in wasting any time.
No, she's got to know something.
She knows fucking nothing. She knows how to get on the internet and repeat what somebody handed her in a packet of fucking information.
Well,
fuck her and every ounce of fucking air she breathes out in to make noise. Fucking internet. Fuck
she probably does know how to handle a firearm, but I'd like to debate her too if it meant that my fist could land on her face.
I got nothing to fucking no. Other than make fun of her, I give no fuck about her.
I called her that on her Twitter account. I said, Jennifer Cum Dumpster parrots the narrative of the mainstream media and can't go anywhere beyond that. And she said, you don't have to call me nasty names, and then blocked me. I felt like I was just giving an honorary badge from the FBI.
Twizzle, we already debated Gray Hughes on Clue Show. He came up one day, I think, trying to get attention from Chris Proudfoot, and instead we wound up talking to him for about an hour and a half, and I finally got him to admit that his opinion of Brian Kohlberger being guilty is 100% based on theory and no facts.
Yeah, he did do that.
And in fact, he ignores the facts. And again, it comes down, how do you explain his DNA? That's not a requirement. That's circumstantial evidence. And a lot of people just don't seem to understand that. It's like it's a magic fucking term that can't apply because the word DNA is in there.
Said, well, fuck, I missed that part.
That absolutely happened. I was so fucking shocked. I was like, what?
Yeah.
He really did just say that.
Yeah, this dumb fucking redneck just got him to confess. Through logic. Look at that.
Unbelievable, man. We live in such an amazing time, and it's sad. It's squandered by so many of us. I'm guilty of it too. I'm not pointing fingers at everybody except me. I'm included in that fucking crime. Oh, here's Twiz. Let's see what he has to say. Twiz.
Yo.
I'll avoid any of the side shit there. I'll let you go on this one. But what's new, Twiz? What do you got for us?
Well, speaking of what you were just talking about, we just read a document where Ann Taylor said the only evidence they have is some transfer DNA.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. The rest of the case is 0. And that's what they're going to take him. That's what they're taking the trial on. And Judge Hippler's allowing it. And he's allowing it with transfer DNA on a movable object, not on the victim. And Americans are too stupid to understand how consequential that is. They don't get it. They'd rather just argue back and forth. He's innocent. He's guilty. He's innocent. He's guilty. Who gives a fuck what Brian Koberger did at this time? That court is trampling all over it. And your kids and your relatives, none of you are be able to get justice in that kind of a court system. They decide who's innocent or guilty. The police do. The prosecutor does. And the judge goes along with it. What kind of a justice system is that, Cletus?
Not a good one.
He said, not a good one.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And it's sad because we want the perpetrator or traitors who off these kids, man. You know, we want Sebastian Rogers back under any condition so we can understand what's the fate of this young man is. We want to know how Karen Reed hit somebody's arm and threw him 30 feet, which killed him, without any injury to his head, to his arm, his shoulder, his ribs, or his sternum. We need to have that understand. I need to understand that. It's like a guy jumped out of an airplane and didn't break anything, but he died. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's all crazy.
Yeah, the Delphi guy. That's crazy.
Oh.
Yeah, that's fucking wild.
And our justice system is so broken. We want to debate online on who's right and who's wrong about innocence or guilt when you'll never know with the people that are putting names in front of you. You might as well just get the fucking phone book out for a certain fucking area code and throw a dart at it. There's your fucking perpetrator. Unreal. How many Elantras did they track that night? Did they check the phones of all the people in the area there? Did they see how many of them owned Elantras? I mean,
I have no
didn't.
idea.
I'm sure
You know
they
what's
didn't.
crazy though? I've seen like 15 of them around town, like within 11 to 16 today. They're all over.
There was a green one at the site that looked like it had been wrapped green and wasn't bought green. There was another one there was one that lived in the area.
Yeah.
In that area, that neighborhood.
Have you guys seen the pictures that they have from that house next door?
Yes, I have. I saw
On the
that
motion?
tonight. Fucking floored.
Yeah, that's not an Elantra.
See,
I don't think it is.
I'm not so quick to dismiss it being an Elantra. I'm quick to dismiss that they absolutely fucking identified and were able to identify a year range and then later distinguish features that narrowed it down or changed it.
Well, they did that from a different camera. We haven't seen that picture yet.
Okay.
No, but these are the images that he relied on, according to the police. And I'm going to say this is what's going to happen. The FBI guy is going to be on the stand. She's going to show him that picture and say, "Is this the image you used to identify 11 to 13?" He's going to say no. Watch. Ann's going to have a sidebar with the judge.
Absolutely what's going to happen because they used the Ridge Road.
We need to have a conference.
They used the Ridge Road picture.
Listen. They're claiming that cop identified a car around the property and a car on Ridge Road. The FBI guy acknowledges this. I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
The image in this motion is not the image he used to come up with an Elantra.
Correct.
That there's more video that's not been given to the defense. And that when this goes to trial and this FBI agent has showed this particular image that you saw in that motion today, that image is going to be something he most likely will say that's not what I used to identify the car.
Oh, of course not.
Remember the 3-point turn? Remember they said that the motion of travel? They have more images of this vehicle. And I'm going to tell you that when she goes to court, the actual full video with those images is probably not been discovered to her. And what you're seeing being presented to us now in the public is most likely what's going to end up in trial. Because these people, the prosecutor isn't stupid. He knows what he's doing. Where's the rest of the video? Where are the other pictures of this car? And there has to be from that camera on that house. There's no way there can't be, Twist. You see the sense in that?
Yeah. She said she has the whole video, but I don't know.
I wonder. I mean, she said that they sent it to her. I don't know that she went through it.
It could be that she didn't go through it.
Why is she showing us this image and then bringing up Ridge Road? Because to me, the only reason to do that would be to say the FBI agent used these images to identify a vehicle that can't be identified in a continuous stream. In other words, you can't connect the movement of those two vehicles as being the same vehicle for one. But why is she showing us that image of the headlights?
Yeah, I don't know.
I believe she's doing that because that's what the prosecution is stating they used to identify the car. They're saying that car in that picture matches the car in the other picture.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's what they're going to try to say.
Correct. But that's not what the information that we've been given so far. We've been told that he identified two different vehicles, an 11 to 13 around the property, and he's comfortable with that ID. And you have to ask yourself, is that picture a picture you could be comfortable making an ID from?
Yeah, I mean, the motion of limine for those two pictures is to stop them from saying it's a Elantra. Right. But that second picture, that window is so small, it totally looks like it's a two-door.
Oh, does it?
To me, and a lot of other people.
I didn't pay much attention to it. I just look at this evidence and I think, Jesus Christ, what are you guys making these stories up? Right now, so you're saying that maybe there is a video more complete than these images. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, that's what Ann has said. I don't know.
I'll email her.
Someone said it looks like a Camaro.
Well, my thing is, if you look at that first picture, there's a line, and it starts right behind the window where the line on the body starts going downwards. And there's no line on an Elantra that does that, at least in that year range. So there's no way that could be his car.
No, I don't think there is. I don't think anything they've ever shown us that says, yeah, that's why I mean, is that really his DNA?
And then you see the white pumpkins that are orange the next day. So tell me what color that car is.
What color are the pictures? Wait a minute, say that again.
The pumpkins on the railing?
Yeah.
In the picture, they're white that night. But they're not white the next day. Because you can't tell what color anything is in infrared.
That's really...
They can't even say that car's white.
I know. I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot that, but you're absolutely 100% right with an infrared camera.
Yeah.
That could be silver. It could be...
Dude, navy blue will show up white under infrared cameras. I don't know if a car navy blue will do that, but I've seen several other things do it.
It's all about the ambient light, not the color. I mean, a black is going to show up black, dark, but colors will show up dark.
When we go ghost hunting,
do you remember the name of that motion?
It's number 12, something about identifying the car.
No.
I just had it up, but I just closed it.
Yeah, it's literally...
number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I see here.
It's
Make and model of suspect's car. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks there, Twiz. I knew you'd...
Somebody posted something on X today, and it's an infrared camera, which it's a dude wearing clothes, but he's wearing dark navy blue, and it's literally white on the camera. Like, it's nuts. You can't tell what color anything is on infrared.
Yeah, I think it's a 4-door, but it could, you know.
No, look at the second picture.
Wiz, are you at a fucking drag race or something?
No.
All right, folks. So I just posted that up there. Let me take down this banner. Hang on. I got to get rid of this. Hide it. Okay. I could try
See,
to
this
blow
picture,
up.
I can't tell if it's a 2 or 4-door just from the angle. It could be either way. But if you look at that line on the body right behind the window, it starts going down. Elantras do not do that.
We have a problem.
Cars in motion too. They may be a blur of the image though.
We have a problem. We have a problem. Timestamp on that picture does not track what the PCA says. It also doesn't track with the footage from Linda Lane and the white car coming around there.
Linda Lane may not even be a part of this prosecution. That video may be nothing at all.
They listed Linda Lane twice.
Yeah, it
under evidence.
Yeah, it's part of the prosecution. So this car, the timestamp on the Linda Lane footage where the car turns around, I want to say is like 4 or something like that. This is at 3:56. You have a huge fucking problem.
Well, I mean, there's lots of problems, but
Yeah, I hope that, the sad thing is everything is a problem. But I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't want my child to be accused of being the owner and occupant of that vehicle with that image. And I don't think anybody that's watching this would suspect that would be fair to their child either. Even if that
Hell
isn't
no.
even if that isn't Elantra. Even if it is.
So
I
how
just
did
wouldn't
they-
accept that as
What
evidence.
color is it?
I don't know.
Hold on. How did they notice that it doesn't have a front license plate? Because what I've said for a long time, they have
Oh,
to flood that out.
did you not watch the hearing?
No.
No.
Because Ann Taylor asked Payne if they changed it to not having a front license plate after the 19th when the MPD was told his name. They only changed it because they found out he was from Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania doesn't have front plates.
Jesus Christ.
Right.
They have no
Well-
video footage of it not having a front plate.
It would have to be. That's right.
It's-
That is Pennsylvania plate.
Mm-hmm.
It's tragic with what's going on here. And that's really been my only objection to the case at all. I mean, I want to know who did it. I don't think we ever will. And I suspect that if this guy is convicted in jury, there's going to be appeals until the appeals court, the justices expire and new ones have to be replaced. And I'm glad that you pointed out those pumpkins because they're right there. And I forgot all about them. I'm looking at the car. I know the pumpkins are there, but you're right.
Even that
there's
top
gray
of that railing is like a dark, or not like a dark blue or a gray or something, like mid-dark blue or gray. I can't remember
Right.
off the top of my head, but that's not that dark.
Nope. Yeah, there you go. You
What's
got
the
this. That
time?
was a good.
What's the timestamp on the body cam office? The body cam from the Banfield where the cops are in the car and they're leaving. Does anybody remember?
I think that's all about around 3, so it'd be way earlier than this.
Okay.
But I don't know.
319 maybe.
Does this connect to the 3-point turn timeline?
That's what I was wondering too.
This doesn't connect to the timeline that the cops gave of when the car was seen on camera coming in.
Does the car like first drive in the neighborhood, then drive up Linda Lane, and then come back and do the 3-point turn? I don't even remember how they word that all.
Someone asked for Anderson Cooper, and I said this. Anderson Cooper has a peepee up his pooper. Got to be politically correct, man. Right? We need to see the vehicle to 3-point turn, and that's where I think you're going to find that the FBI agent came to the conclusion it was 11 to 13. This should be an interesting trial. What?
I don't know. You've always said they identified the car via a photo of a car going the wrong way on the wrong road at the wrong time.
Right. That's the Ridge Road photo.
So then
That shows a later make vehicle. That could be as much as a 14, all the way up to a 16.
and that's how they identified the make and model of the vehicle. If that's the case, then why is Ann concerned about this photo at all?
Well,
Because they're saying that car drove from Ridge Road to here.
Gotcha.
They're saying it's the same car.
but it was the wrong road at the wrong time and going the wrong way. But according to Jeff, the wrong road and the wrong time doesn't matter because the guy made a U-turn.
Right. Well, you know that cars can change direction.
There is no video footage linking Koberger to 1122. Yeah, you have to be told how to perceive what you're seeing. And that's what Bill Thompson's doing. I mean, this is the sad part about criminal justice. They're going to try to sell you on how to think about this picture and try to slam it home that the jury agrees that that's an 11 to 16. That's the whole process they're going to go through. The fact of the matter is, inconclusive pieces of paperwork like this shouldn't even be brought to trial. They should be allowed in the courtroom.
Well, I mean, I don't think this thing should fucking proceed anywhere. Violence. I'm sorry, but if Bill Thompson is going to lie and contradict himself and document that lie, then there's no fucking reason to proceed.
The head of the Southern District of New York's FBI field office, the big kahuna, just quit when he was told to release the Epstein files to the Department of Justice's new fucking attorney general. He sent her a package of documents that had been already released to the public. When she demanded she get them all, and she sent agents to go do it, she not only got almost a truckload of documents, but he quit his job. He quit his fucking job. Now, why would the top FBI agent in the Southern District of New York not comply with the commands of the main office? When he could have, when documents that she actually got when she sent her people, they actually produced the documents this guy didn't give her. And rather than say, oh, I missed it, or he just simply quits his fucking job because he knows he's a piece of shit. He's not a law enforcement officer. He thinks he's God, judge, jury, and executioner. Just like a lot of these police and a lot of these DAs in a lot of our localities. They think it's their job to convict you. Whether you did it or not doesn't even cross their mind.
You know the best part, though?
What?
They still haven't used that AT&T timing data.
Oh,
You think
on that? I found that today, and I told Sarge at the beginning of this, is like I need a little bit more time to read through it carefully, make sure I'm getting exactly what they're saying. But if I am, then yeah, you can take the entire response, throw it out the fucking window.
The FBI agent didn't even use it. That's the crazy part.
No, but they're going to supplement it based on their opinion about what they're interpreting. Yeah.
Right.
It's not fact. It's your interpretation and your educated guess, which can easily be disputed with somebody like the IRA.
Right.
So it's a mute fucking point. Don't even pretend that's. They got nothing.
It's a joke of a case.
Sarge, if you're talking.
He must have muted.
I said that her point is completely valid, but that picture is exculpatory in that it shows you got images of vehicles that can't be identified at the time of the crime, as you're stating that, you know, this guy's right there at 3-something in the morning. 3:56, is it?
Yeah.
You're saying the crime took place around 4 a.m. So in other words, they can't portray this image as showing continuous movement of a vehicle because this vehicle can't be identified to be anything. That's why Ann's saying you can't use it. That's what she's saying.
Well, she's just saying that they can't call it an Elantra. They can't call it a white Elantra.
Right. So she's asking them to exclude this image from their presentation. So I appreciate that, Yvonne. Wasn't we ignored you, it's that I muted and stepped away. I try to watch the chat and keep up with what you guys are saying. It's not easy. My co-host seems crippled. Crippled. He's a cripple.
I think if we could lighten that picture up too, we'd see a sunroof on it.
Yeah, I seen people make the argument in the very beginning when it came out. I can't say for sure. But if that could be shown to be conclusive, that would be exculpatory. And you know, again, we already had Officer Payne. He said under oath that none of the imagery and all the videos that they have, and none of that can they identify conclusively Brian Koberger's car or Brian Koberger.
Right.
So all of these videos. So it's crazy. And you know, that makes me ask them, why did you charge the guy? If you don't know that any of that connects to him, what right do you have to charge him?
Yep.
So, all right.
And they don't want him to use his alibi. They don't want him to. What else is the state trying to get?
They don't want him to have an alternative perpetrator.
Oh yeah, alternative suspects.
There's DNA everywhere, but we only want to stick with this one skin cell we found. It's like, wow, really? So the jury's never going to know that there were 6 other pieces of DNA that you didn't track down through IgG? Unbelievable. All right, well, we've beaten this horse to the point where not only is it dead, but the ability for the horses to repopulate the planet has been removed. Cletus, right? I mean, we beat this horse bad, bro. we've run the whole herd into extinction. I see Cleanest jumped out of here quick. He was probably afraid I was going to hang up on him, and I wasn't gonna. You know what I'm saying, Twizzle?
Of course, you never do that.
No, why would I? Oh, Twiz. That was terrible. Twiz got hung up on. I missed Cletus. I was going to get his ass, but he got me. He jumped quick. He saw it coming. And, yeah, he jumped down. I had to get Twiz because, you know, why the hell not? He finished his sentence. He comes in here. He finishes the back. It never happens. That's fucking epic, Twiz. Folks, it's been an awesome stream. There's hundreds of you in here. 542 people in here. 543. I appreciate all joining. It's almost the witching hour, midnight. I turn into a pumpkin. And through infrared cameras, I will not look orange. I'll look white. Ironic, isn't it? They jumped the shark. I appreciate everyone being in here. You all have a good night. I just want to tell you live from Beijing, from the top of Cock Tower, with the Lick of My Balls Convention Center. You all tune in again. We'll be back soon enough. Have a good night.